Check one.
Sit up by Beebs or behind or. All right, just real quick. My name's Aaron Thomas. We just want to thank you for coming. If you could do me a favor, if you could slide towards the middle or to one edge, we will have some schools that are coming from some distance. Storm Lake. I think Storm Lake's here, though. Where's Storm Lake? Right up front. They drove how far? 240? 2.5, 240. Galena. Is Galena, Illinois here yet? Okay, Galena's coming. So as folks fill in, it'll just help us if they can just come down the aisle, slide in so it's not completely disruptive. So slide, make sure we don't have a bunch of blank space. We're going to start with a quick video here. As this thing is gone, what we've realized is many of you weren't born when the idea of the Ed Thomas leadership and Ed Thomas, who he was, a lot of you were just born. And so may not have any recollection or have any idea, what's this guy's name on my t-shirt, who is it, what's it for, what's it mean. So we show a video, it was from the 2010 ESPY Awards, that tells kind of the story. So we're going to start with that before we get into our speakers. This just kind of gives you a background of maybe why we have this, where it came from.
Whole day of Friday is pretty much gauged towards the football field. Who we're playing, how good are they?
Growing up in Parkersburg, you dreamt about being out there on the field on Friday nights and playing for Coach Thomas.
He arrived in 1975, the new football coach in Parkersburg, Iowa, just 25 years old. Over the next 36 years, Ed Thomas would win 292 games, 2 state titles, and be named National High School Coach of the Year by the NFL. He sent 4 players to the pros, but more importantly, turned generations of Parkersburg boys into men. Men like Dave Becker, the captain of Ed Thomas's first Falcon team.
We had our meeting and the rules were announced. We were going to work harder than anyone else. Fourth quarter would be ours. He convinced us we could be winners.
He had the gift of getting kids to elevate their game to a level that they never thought they were even capable of.
He expected more out of his football players, that they were going to set the example of how to act.
It was an experience that I wanted, when I become a young father, for each one of my kids to have.
I want them to learn all the intangibles that goes with athletics that are going to make them a better husband, a better dad, a better member in their community and their church, just a better citizen.
Never were those lessons more important than May 25th, 2008.
Talking massive disruption, large gas leaks, flattened houses. I'm very serious. They need to get here and shut down this area.
In just a matter of seconds, the tornado destroyed hundreds of homes and killed 8 people.
A big part of my life is this school. As you look at our athletic facilities, all destroyed, we're going to rebuild. Because I don't know how else you deal with it, but to move forward.
With his own house amid the rubble, Ed Thomas guided Parkersburg out of the wreckage. Flanked by his current and former players, Thomas led a cleanup effort with an ambitious goal: restore the football field in time for the Falcons' home opener, just 100 days away.
He just set the tone very early, and we were going to dust ourselves off. We were going to help each other, and we were going to get through this.
I asked him, Coach, what can I do? He said, well, we have to get all of them bleachers off the football field. And he put his hand on my shoulder and said, Dave, I'll leave you in charge of that.
Alongside the football field being rebuilt, we were rebuilding our town, so it was an end goal to look forward to kind of that fall, that we could do something normal, because nothing was normal that year.
And so on September 5th, with seemingly every one of Parkersburg's 1,900 citizens in the stands and a national audience watching on TV, Ed Thomas gathered his team in a makeshift locker room known as the Bus Barn.
Every player that's ever played on that field, I guarantee you, is thinking about you tonight. Fellas, I've been in this for 36 years. I've had some tremendous experiences. Nothing is going to be greater than going out there tonight. Where you from?
Just the fact they could play through that devastation and the team, the way they came together.
It was definitely emotional, especially after the summer we went through.
There's no question in my mind we will be a better school and a better community than we ever were before. Thank you.
Big night. Well done.
Coach Thomas led the Falcons to an 11-1 record that season. And as winter turned to spring and then summer, the town began to look like itself again. Last June, a little more than a year after the tornado, the football team resumed early morning workouts back in the Bus Barn.
When you're done lifting, you just tell him you're done lifting, and he would say, see you later. Just see a coach, just like every other day.
I mean 911.
We had a
I think a shooting right now in the bus barn down at the high school.
In the bus barn?
Yeah. Kids had come running out and said somebody shot Ed Thomas.
Okay.
Just a few moments after Scott Becker drove away, unbeknownst to him, his older brother Mark, a former Falcon starting lineman who had been recently diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, walked into the bus barn and in front of 22 students, pulled out a gun and shot his former coach 7 times.
The chief of police told me that it was Ed and that he'd been shot in the head several times and he didn't want me to go in there. So I called Aaron then to let him know what was going on.
My mom is probably one of the calmest people I've ever met, but I could hear something in her breath. I knew it wasn't good.
It was already on CNN, and that's when we had found out that he had passed away.
And I instantly just started thinking about my boys. To tell a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and 6-year-old, how are you going to explain this?
It's kind of like you just get punched in the stomach.
I just told her, sorry, I couldn't be here.
The Thomases' world was shattered. Across town, another family would soon be stunned to learn that the killer was their own son.
My phone's ringing. I pick it up, and it's my neighbor saying, you better get home. There's a lot of squad cars flying up your driveway. A couple of the sheriff deputies filled me in on it was Mark. I can remember, obviously, kind of falling apart there.
I called my husband. I said, Dave, did you hear about Coach? And he said, Joan, you've got to get somebody to give you a ride home.
I couldn't wrap my mind around how a kid who Dad had taught and coached and reached out to would ever do something like this to him.
My son was responsible for taking such a good man. How do you get over that?
Just wondered how this was all going to play out. How are we going to live tomorrow?
I was concerned about being able to live in this community.
The Thomas family immediately addressed those concerns when just hours after the murder, they held a press conference and made an appeal to the town.
Nothing can prepare you for what our family, our community is going through. We also want to make sure we express our concern and our compassion for the Becker family. We ask that people pray for them as well.
How do you stand up there and offer comfort and prayers to the family of the person who shot your dad? And it took a lot of courage for Aaron to do that.
Dad always taught us to lead by example. If we're going to tell somebody to reach out and support the Beckers, and if we're not doing it, that's not very good character.
The day after the murder, Aaron and Todd sought out Scott Becker, one of Coach Thomas's players, who was struggling to come to grips with what his older brother had done.
Our biggest concern, my brother and I, was just that for Scott to know this wasn't his fault.
Right away, they said, we're here with you. That was probably the first time I broke down.
Thousands came from across the country to Parkersburg for the funeral. But as the Thomas family mourned, they somehow found the strength to continue consoling the Beckers.
This is a note that Jan gave to an usher, and it says, give to Joan Becker. Joan, Dave, and boys, we love you and are here too. Hang in there, Jan T. I'll never take this out of my Bible. Compassion is the driving force in their family. We had hundreds and hundreds of people come to our home. They would say, we just left the Thomases. Jan said to be sure and give you her love.
I went down to the mailbox, and it's every square inch of stuff full of thinking of you cards. That's when I realized that it was going to be okay in the community.
2 months after the murder, the Beckers returned to Ed Thomas Field to watch their youngest son, Scott, play football again, now led by a new generation of Thomases.
As we approached the crowd, of course they turned and looked and just started hugging. Once that kickoff took place, you said a feeling it's going to be okay. I know Coach wasn't there, but he was there. And it was Falcon football once again.
The 3 things that mattered to Ed Thomas the most were faith, family, and Falcon football. And he dedicated his life to sharing them with the citizens of Parkersburg. Today, a year after his death, his family is left to carry on without him. But just like Coach, they have led by example, showing uncommon strength, faith and compassion at the darkest of times, revealing the power of forgiveness not just to a town, but the world far beyond it. And it is through the dignity and courage of his family that Ed Thomas's legacy lives on.
I'll never be my dad, but if I can have some of the impact he had, I'll feel that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
There's no doubt we have been faced with adversity. We made our choice on how we're going to react to it.
My hope for the future is to be high school kids again, to just get to be small town Iowa, to move forward but not forget my dad and what he's taught us.
Well, again, welcome. We thank everybody for coming today to the Ed Thomas Leadership Academy. It's been since the fall of 2019, pre-COVID, since we've been able to have one of these things. And today, a couple things, just housekeeping. Restrooms down both hallways. If you go straight, or when you go straight to the left, there's a small restroom by our small gym to the right. So if you need to use the restroom during a session, go ahead and get up. We will have breaks after every speaker, okay? So no, you're going to have that time to get a drink, get up, stretch your legs, do those things. Big believer in this today. You will get out of this what you want. Okay, you will get out of this what you want. If you have, I'm just stupid, especially AP kids, because I know you're all here, you'll get out of it what you want. To those visiting us today, somebody selected you for a reason. There's a reason you're here. They have enough thought of you that the leader you could become. Okay? One of my dad's favorite sayings is, you either get better or you get worse, you never stay the same. And today's an opportunity for each and every one of us, and I include myself because there's two great speakers today that are going to speak before I do. And I guarantee I will take something from them that will challenge me to be better at what I do every day as a principal, as a coach, as a dad, as a husband. All those things will be challenged. Folks, there might be references to sports. This is not just about sports at all. There might be analogies. It's not about extracurricular at all. It's about being better people. Because at the end of the day, I hope each and every one of you someday are part of some form of team, because your team is your family. To get a family to be the best it can be, it's no different than being a part of something bigger than yourself. Okay? Last thing, with my request, two things that left. Number one, I really don't care if you don't listen to me today or listen maybe to those guys, but here's the rule. Don't take the opportunity away from somebody sitting beside you. Because they might say something today. There might be something said today that resonates with somebody that completely changes their thinking, completely changes who they are as a person. And do not rob your neighbor of that opportunity. Last request today, and this is going to be a challenge for everybody your age. We're going to see if we can do it. See if you can get 50 minutes without using that phone. Keep them in your pocket. Don't look at them until you get your 10-minute break. Then you can send all your Snapchats real quick, be back in here, and then you can all have all kinds of them to open when you got the next 10-minute break. AP kids, I hope you don't have your phones. Our goal today with our wellness days, stay off your phone. See if you can go a whole day without your phone. Okay? With that, our first speaker, Coach Kearns, Al Kearns, coach here. Coach Kearns likes to say he spent more time with my dad than my mother spent with my dad. Coach Kearns came here in 1978. He was assistant football coach, head girls track coach, taught elementary PE, taught psychology, sociology. Okay, he coached with my dad. Unbelievable success in girls state track. Was a huge part of the football success we were able to have here. He also was a huge piece of this Leadership Academy. He ran it until he retired during COVID from helping us out. But everybody, a warm round of applause for Coach Al Kearns.
Hear me in the back? Hello? Raise your hand if you can hear me back there. Thanks. Before I start today, I just want to mention something about Ed Thomas. And I think this is easy to remember, so I'm going to start with it. It's so easy today. There's a lot of confusing things going on. And you as a group, I look at you just a little bit different than the groups we had before all this COVID stuff, because it seems there's a lot more confusion in your world today. But that man right there, you can look right at him. That's a Sports Illustrated from the summer of 2009. Nothing really special about that guy, looks-wise. It's pretty easy today to back off and say, I can't make a difference because I'm only one person. I'm glad he wasn't like that. He made a difference in thousands of lives that attended school on this hill that you're on today. And his impact is here today. And he hasn't walked this earth since 2009. And don't miss, there's a tragedy. It's weird to me. I'm here today. You know why I'm up here? Because my best friend got murdered. That's a weird feeling I'll never get used to, I hope. But don't you forget and don't you miss how his family responded. And that's why you're here today. Because they didn't back off. Their father got killed, their husband got killed, and they did not stand down. And you're here today because of that. And we've given kids, thousands, an opportunity to improve, and that's what Coach Thomas would have wanted. And that's what today's about. If you've heard me speak, you're going to say, I've heard this before. He says this all the time, empathy and offense. Empathy means you have an appreciation for how another person or a group of people feel. I have empathy for you today. I hope you're not like I was in high school. Unfortunately, I had very poor character when I was young. Yesterday's gone, you can't get it back. That's not always a good thing. That's just a warning. But when I decide what I'm going to say to you, I hope I give you an opportunity. I would be the person out there that say, why do we have to listen to this old man? That would have been me. I probably was too stupid to get anything out of a day like today. And I regret that. And I don't want you to regret it. And that's one of the reasons I went into coaching and teaching. I said, I want to help young people not be as stupid as I was. Because everything you weren't supposed to do when I was young sure seemed like a good time. And then one day it's not. Don't miss that. That's empathy. I have empathy for you. Offense, I don't want to offend anybody. It's so easy to offend people today. People really get offended. Old people like me, sometimes it's hard for us to understand. But it's true. If I offend you today, I guarantee you, you're taking it wrong. I would never, ever, ever want to offend any one of you. And I hope that doesn't happen. And again, I'm not talking to you today because I'm this great, always been this great character person. I have a lot of weaknesses. I have a lot of flaws. All I have is experience. Yeah, I was a longtime teacher and coach. I started in 1978. Look at that. Gas was 63 cents a gallon. We thought that was high. Ed Thomas was my best friend, as he was to many, many other people. That's a unique person. I almost feel selfish when I say he was my best friend. I think it's important to me that you know this about me. I've been married 47 years to the same person, and she stayed with me. And I would want that for everyone in here, but you see, when I talk to you today, I want you to understand, yeah, this has been so good for me. We were blessed with 2 sons. We have 2 daughter-in-laws. We have 5 grandchildren. I love that, but that might not be what you want. I get it. So no matter what I say today, I'm not preaching to you. I'm just saying, hey, I am a mutt. The other people you hear to speak today are more normal speakers that you would hear in a situation like this. They have master's degrees, doctorate degrees, whatever. I graduated from college. I'm pretty sure that I kept my teaching certificate current. That's it. I learned in the trenches. So that's what I'm sharing with you. I'm sharing with you what I learned in the trenches working with people just like you. The purpose of today, you know, this stuff, everything good that I tell you, I didn't make up. I've stolen it. I stole this off the internet. I don't even know if it's legal, but they can come and take me away, I guess. But this is what we're about. True leaders don't create followers. We're trying to create more leaders. And as teachers and coaches, I think that's one of our number one jobs. You know, what are you looking at up here today? I hope you're not looking at me, because there's not much to see. But I hope I can hold up a mirror for you to look into and think about yourself when we talk about these things. When I look at you, I'm totally thinking, here's the future. I don't know if you guys get this, but I 100% believe this. Best young people in the United States of America, in the world, sitting here today. Iowa kids. We still have something. We still have that agricultural thing. Work ethic. Respecting people, respecting property. Doing what's right. It's a big part of what we're about. And we need you guys to go out and be leaders here and beyond. I'm looking at the future. You're looking at the past. Yeah, I'm in the fourth quarter of my life. I'm even lucky to be here today, but you're in the first quarter of your life. Everything's ahead of you. And days like today, you can set your course. And hopefully it's a good one. What can you learn from an old man? All I can tell you is this: I'm cursed. Somewhere along the line I got cursed, and I'm going to tell you something. There's hardly anyone in this crowd today that I really know. There are some, but not very many. There's some people here, a few of you, that are very important to me. One I saw early today, I tell you. I care about you. That's the curse. That's what makes teaching and coaching difficult, is that we care. If we didn't care, it would be easy. Our job would be easy if we did not care, but we do. And I don't know you, but I care about you, and I want you to get something out of today. When you walk out of here today, here's your challenge. You're going to be better, or you're going to be worse. Aaron talked about his dad. You know, you never stay the same. You can't coast. You're not going to say, when this is over and you walk up that aisle and leave here today and the door hits you in the backside, you're either going to be better from today or worse from today. That's it. The choice is yours. Get better every day. G-bed, that's what I say. Get better every day. You got to have that attitude. I saw this work when I first came here and started teaching. And if you could get a group of people, it started with me in athletics, but it works in everything. And I saw groups of people that were mature enough and say, you have a 2-hour practice. If they come to practice and they understand, those groups that do, not all groups get this. If we can go out here for 2 hours today and get better, by the end of the year, we're going to be awful hard to beat. And it works in everything you do. You could break it down and say, how much more would school mean to you? How much would your classroom be better if you just set goals like this to get better every day? Every door I walk into, I don't know if you have 3 classes, 4 classes, 7, I don't know how many classes. Every time I learn one thing today. What if you decided every classroom door you went in when you walked out, you would be better? What if you consciously thought about that every day? You would be better. I remember one day I entered my classroom early one morning and it just hit me and said, you know, you're asking these kids to do this all the time. Are you doing it? That was a real challenge for me. It changed my teaching because I really wasn't focused in on it. And when I did, I hope the last day before I retired was my best day as a teacher. It better have been. I had people say, well, you're going to teach 30, 40 years, you're going to do a job 30, 40 years, it's impossible to get better every day. That may be true, but it's not impossible to have that attitude. That is not impossible at all. And that's up to us. That's an individual thing. Get better every day. The basics. If you took someone, and there are some people here that were in my classes, and you asked them, what did Mr. Kearns want you to learn more than anything else? I would hope they say this. More than the subject I teach, I want you to think for yourself. TFY, think for yourself. That's what I want you to learn in school. And I'm not here to lecture or tell you. I'm holding up that looking glass or mirror for you. And if you tell people, I want you to think for yourselves, that creates questioning, but I like that. I liked it when a kid would raise their hand in class and say, Mr. Kearns, you said this, but what about this? They don't mesh. So maybe what you're telling us, Mr. Kearns, is not true. I like that. Thinking for yourself. I said, okay, so let's talk about this. Let's figure this out. And sometimes when that questioning happens, you're going to have disagreements. I would tell that every day in a high school classroom, first day. If you believe everything I say, you may be an idiot. Now you got to listen to that. And some of you are going to sit there today probably and go, you're going to go home, somebody's going to ask you, hey, you went to that leadership academy and what'd you learn? And some of you are going to go, I don't know, some old man called us all idiots. That's about all I learned. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't want you to believe everything anyone says. I want you to think about it. I want you to decide for yourself. And when you do, you're going to disagree. And here's where I think we are failing today. We're failing to teach it. We're failing to promote it. And our role models are doing a terrible job with this. Is disagreeing in an agreeable way. The reason I emphasize being married to the same person for 47 years, that is impossible without being able to do this, because sometimes your wife will be wrong. So you have to be able to disagree in an agreeable way. And more often than not, I'm the wrong one. But you have to be able to do this, and we have to, that's leadership. That's leadership. You don't have to win a vote to be a leader. You don't have to be picked out. There's something we'll talk about later called self-leadership. That's leading yourself and doing things the right way. The world today, everybody says the world today is very unique. We got all these problems, we got all these struggles, we got all these things going on. It's very confusing. I guess that's true. I mean, the world has changed so fast. I cannot believe this. You guys will have probably no appreciation for this, but this is my 50th year since I've been in high school, and I can't believe what I've seen for change. I remember one day in high school, we were in science class, and the science teacher was talking about that someday there's going to be a telephone, and you're going to be able to talk on the telephone and see who you're talking to. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard of. And things like that have happened. My father died at 80 years old. I remember in his lifetime, I remember when we were little, he would talk to us with great reverence about farming with horses. And I worked for a farmer a couple years ago, and the tractor, I think, had 3 computers in it, and sometimes you didn't even have to steer it. And it would haul enough grain to fill a semi in one load in my lifetime. It's amazing. So we go, is it unique? Back in 1966, a little over 55 years ago, when I was young, there was a song by Buffalo Springfield. And the lines went like this, because I remember a very chaotic time in the late 60s, early 70s, Vietnam War, civil rights, a lot going on. We thought we fixed a lot of problems we're talking about 50 years later. It's kind of sad. The words went like this: there's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's battle lines being drawn. But here's the line, the next line, that hit me then, and it hits me today, and I believe it. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. And I think to a large degree today, everybody's wrong. Everybody's thinking they're right. But when you can't disagree in an agreeable way, you are wrong. You cannot make progress. You cannot move forward. And you're going to have chaos. And that is not leadership. How does positive leadership respond? You can recognize great leadership because it unites people. It brings people together. When leadership fails, chaos ensues. That's all I'm going to say about that. Leadership basic, number 1. If I talked, and people from Applington Parkersburg, you're going to say, well, I probably heard this before. But I found that when I teach this, sometimes they don't get it. Maybe you'll get it. If I could say one thing in a talk, sometimes I present to teachers, I tell them the same thing. You got to know this. You got to know the 800-100. You got to know it. And most people go, I don't know what that is. Well, I'm going to tell you. To me, this is so important with all the concerns that we talked about earlier. The 800-100 is a concept. These numbers are not exact, but you can make sense of it. So we go, it's just simple. We talk to ourselves at about the rate of 800 words per minute. You're doing that right now while I'm talking to you. You're talking to yourself. Some of you probably are like me. I thought I was the master of looking interested when I was disinterested. I figured I could look right at a teacher and they think I'm listening, but I'm not. I'm talking to myself at 800 words per minute about something totally different. That happens. Other people talk to us at 100 words a minute. That would be like me talking to you at about 100 words a minute while you're talking to yourself at 800 words a minute. Who talks to us the most? Duh. We talk to ourselves. It means how you talk to yourself is way important. Way important. And so we go and we say, I could give you a test now. If this was class, I say test tomorrow. How many words per minute can you talk to yourself? And you probably, almost everyone would say 800. How many words per minute do other people talk to you? And almost everyone could pass the quiz and write 100. But that's the dumbest quiz ever. That is a worthless quiz. That's just information. Now let's make knowledge and wisdom out of it. So what does this mean to all of us? What does it mean? Another way to say it is the way you talk determines how you think. How you think determines how you act, and how you act becomes who you are. And it's based on words and language. Sometimes I would ask young people, all right, take a think about something. Try to think, just stop, think, and don't use words. It's hard. And we use words. Now you can think without words. You can think in visual images. That's for another day, but that's important too. So we go and we say, are you teachable or coachable? I was amazed when I was a teacher and a coach how many students would say this to me. You'd try to do something or you'd try to help them and they say, I can't, I'm dumb. I learned they are unteachable if they say that. I cannot help them. Unless I do what? Unless I help them do what? Unless I help them change their self-talk from negative to positive. As teachers, we have to recognize that and do that. Okay. Chaperones, teachers, coaches out there, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, okay? Now, I know it's kind of a workout, but help me out here. How many of you out there have had a young person and you knew they could do something, you could see they could do it, and they won't do it? How many? How many have been frustrated by that? You got to go right to their self-talk. They're liars. They're lying to themselves. You people say, I don't like people who lie to me. Well, if you lie to yourself, it's 800 times worse. You can't say, I can't help it. I can't help it. I heard kids say, well, my mom couldn't take tests either. I'm like, are you kidding me? When you say something, you got to change that negative self-talk to positive. Now we can't. I'm talking about being real. Almost everyone in here is within a range. You know, some people go, we're pretty good today at telling people that they're special. Oh, you guys are so special. Probably not. I mean, it's okay for your parents and relation or whatever to tell you that. But most people are just average, but that's really more than you need. If you work at it, if you're willing to do something. People say, I'm just the way I am. You're lying to yourself. So we say, hey, The Little Engine That Could, one of the best books ever written. You go, Mr. Kearns, that's just a stupid kindergarten book. That's ridiculous. I use it with high school kids. It works. It's real. And when you see it, it's amazing. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. If you say I can't do it, add yet. I can't do it yet, but I'm gonna. It might take me longer than some of the others, but I'm gonna do it. I can. So we say get better, add yet. So, as we go, what I've learned to go through this, the thing you got to reinforce is it's not easy. Nothing we say today is easy. It's hard. And I've learned in my long life that things that are good are really hard. It takes a lot of reps. You cannot microwave success. You cannot microwave goodness. You got to work at it. It's hard to do the right thing all the time. It's a lot easier to not do the right thing all the time. I wish it weren't that way. You do not want teachers and coaches that are easy on you. You may like it at the time. And teachers and coaches, I always said, what makes teaching hard sometimes is that every time a teacher does what they're supposed to do, somebody's upset with us. And the simplest example I can give you is, all right, here's your homework for tomorrow. This sucks. Well, that's how you get better. That's the only way. You got to put in some effort. And I'll tell you this right now, if you're not putting in the effort, you're not just behind Applington Parkersburg Little School. You're going to leave here soon. And you're going to compete with people from all over the world. And have you heard? They're coming here. And when they go to school, they appreciate it. It's an opportunity. There are some other cultures that study way more than we do. And you're going to compete with them. So if you don't work, you're going to get left behind. I say, remember when you were little. What do you mean, Mr. Kearns, remember when you were little? Okay, it's simple. I won't ask you to do this because I found out kids hate to do this. If I said stand up, and they're like, I ain't standing up. Some kids would go, I ain't doing it. I'm not standing up. But if you wanted to, you could, and you would hardly have to think about it. If I said, I want you to walk down and walk out the aisle, you could do it, and you would hardly have to think about it. But you couldn't always do it. There was a little person inside of us when we were born, and if I took walking and I say, when you went to take your first step, I got to be careful here. When you went to take your first step, you fell back on your diaper. But you got up. I don't know how many reps it took. It took a lot, but you didn't care. You didn't go, this is a lot of work getting up. I got to really try hard to take another step. No, you did it, and then you could walk. And people helped you, I hope. That's nice. That makes it a little easier if you let people help you. Here, let me take your hand. We're going to walk. You're going to get your balance. You're going to go, and now you go, and you're just like, hey, I can do it. But where'd that little person go? I'll bet you what, some of you today, if you fell back on your diaper, you'd never get up. You'd say, I can't do it. What happened to the little person inside of you? It's still there. You just got to find it. Don't lose that little person inside you that keeps getting up and getting up and getting up. And try to hang out with the people that says you can get up. Don't hang out with the people that says you can't get up. And there are people out there telling you you can't do this, you should be worried about this, you should be scared about this. Maybe so, but I'm going to get up. And today I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk. What does positive leadership say? I would like you to learn to start saying this. Anytime you have a complaint, Don't talk about. Complaining is contagious. It's kind of fun. We're pretty good at it. But it doesn't accomplish anything. You say, what am I doing to make it better? My example would be this. I'm teaching class. I have a group of students come in my room. I try not to listen to them, but sometimes it's impossible. I just say, hey, this class down here, this teacher's so bad, so dumb, we can't learn anything in that class. And I'm like, excuse me. Yeah, Mr. Kearns, what? I don't want to hear that. Well, it's true, Mr. Kearns. We can't learn anything. And that's what I say. What are you doing to make it better? I've had teachers come in my room and they're venting about a student. Oh, this student, they do this and that, and they drive me crazy. And I said, have you told them that? Well, no. Well, then you aren't going to fix it. You got to tell them what you told me. They can take it. And if they can't, they're unfixable. You got to tell them. We're not mind readers. You got to say, this is what I expect of you in this room. This is what you're going to do when you're in here. We have to do this to get something done. So we say, what am I doing to make it better? You say, well, Mr. Kearns, that's not our job in the classroom to make it better. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. I remember we had a student one year. She was my neighbor. She went to college. And one of her college professors came here and spoke. And I went up to talk to him afterwards, and they said, hey, did you know that the best freshman student in our college is from your high school? And I want to commend you that you must have been good teachers here and teach. I'm going to say what? I said, I'll tell you what, that girl was my next door neighbor till she was 18, and nobody taught her anything. That's how good she was, because she did the things we're talking about today every day. She didn't complain. She just wanted to learn. She didn't need a teacher to learn. She recognized that. She had textbooks. She had information. She made knowledge of it. And she's one of the smartest people that I know in the world today. And she's still learning. There's no secret. So we go, is what I'm doing making the situation better? Ask yourself these questions. Sometimes we have the right to do things. And we have to pause and say, if I do this, will it make the situation better or worse? And a lot of times it's what we say, because we always seem to have something to say. Well, I want to say this about that. Well, is that going to help, or is that going to make it worse? Now, again, I go back to being married. Sometimes I need to think about that a little more. Maybe I just shut my mouth, and we can move on, and we can disagree in an agreeable way. Maybe so. How can we use conflict to make us better? Great leaders can do that. I'm concerned we may be becoming a nation of problem identifiers. We're great at pointing the finger at everyone else and telling everybody else they should be doing this, you should be doing that, you're not doing what you're supposed to. We don't like you anymore. We're not going to buy your stuff. We're not going to look at you on TwitFace or whatever it is you guys do today. I don't know anything about that social media stuff. Crazy. I don't have social media, and I'm alive. I'm alive. I still look at maps. I'm concerned we may be becoming a nation of identifying problems instead of what made us great is problem solving. And I think why we're problem identifiers is we can't get together on anything. We got to stop, again, I keep saying we got to stop hating each other's guts if we disagree. That is not leadership. That is the opposite of leadership. Figure it out. If I'm with this political party and you're with that, I'm not going to hate you if you're different. But we got to get together and come up and solve a problem and make a solution. You're the new leaders. How are you going to respond? That's what I'm asking you today. I really believe this. You can disagree with me. You can. But I'm telling you, I'm all about this. There are a lot of people out there with agendas, and they don't want you to think for yourself. They do not. They want to tell you what to think. I'm just warning you. Thinking for yourself, that's leadership. Leadership 101, basics, little things, little things. I'm talking positive leadership only today. Now, all your schools have leadership. Your school is either dominated by positive leadership or negative leadership. I don't know what it is, but you know what your school is. You a party school? You happy about that? You proud of that? Some schools are. Or do you accomplish a lot of things in a lot of areas, in your academics, in your extracurriculars? Are you learning? The first person you lead, and I talk about self-leadership, that's the start. You earn the right to lead others when they see you lead your own life well. There's a whole bunch of kids in schools that are leaders and they don't even know it because they just show up, they do what they're supposed to do, they put their nose down and they go to work and they're great role models and they don't even know they're leaders. They're just doing what they're supposed to do. They weren't voted in. It wasn't like that. I've had students say, Mr. Kearns, I really don't want to be a leader because I don't want to get up in front of people. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can be a role model just by being a good person. And that's what we need. That's going to make your school better. It's going to make you better. So we go, everybody's a leader. I don't care. You say, I don't want to be a leader. Are you going to be in a family someday? Some of you want to be somebody's mother or father. You better be a leader. Living your own life well means living with character. Character. And I wouldn't want anyone to miss this. If you want to improve your performance, I don't care what it is you're doing, improve your leadership, improve your character. It's a lifelong challenge for us. Ed Thomas said more than anything else, do what's right. And today we call that character, do what's right. I can remember like yesterday, every Friday night after a football game, the last thing he said to the players before they got off the bus or before they left the locker room, no matter what he talked about before that, he always ended with this. He said, fellas, do what's right this weekend. You remember? Do what's right this weekend, because that's when it's hard. That's when the people are going to come after you. Come on, drink this, smoke this, do this. Don't be afraid, it's fun. That's when it's hard. And you got to have it in here. You got to feel it. You got to say no thanks. And some do. My wife and I, we've been awakened in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Some student that we have, phone rings. Somebody's on the other end crying there at some college. They say, Mr. Kearns, I can't take it here. Well, what's the matter? Everybody's doing drugs, everybody's drinking. I said, stop. Stop. No, they're not. A lot of them, maybe. A majority, maybe. Everybody in your room, maybe. But not everybody. Keep looking. Keep looking. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Because it's not true. Everybody is not true. Don't fall for it. And everybody doesn't make it right. They do not. They make it dangerous. You know, character is defined, most people would say this. What's the definition of character? Doing what's right when nobody's watching, because that's hard. That's real hard. You know, the definition we used, I taught a course on character development and leadership, loved teaching it. Kids loved it. And the definition of character is it was a centerpiece word, and I'll show you that in just a minute. It's a centerpiece of all positive character traits. There's a bunch of character traits. Doing what's right when nobody's watching. But then, it must be forged through struggle and experience because having good character is hard. Nothing I've said today, remember, is easy. It's hard. Expect it. Take it. The centerpiece word looks like this. There's the center. There's the character traits. Attitude, preparation, perseverance. Perseverance. Can you persevere? Do you have a good attitude? Do you prepare? I remember when I first started coaching track here, and I walked by two of our track girls, and I heard them say this, and there was a girl running on the track, and she was great. She was a great runner from Cedar Falls. And I heard him say, I wish I could run like that. Me too. And I stopped, and I said, no, you don't. Don't say that. And they were like, Mr. Kearns, why are you being so mean? I said, I'm not being mean, I'm being honest. If you did what that girl did, you'd be running like that. I happen to know that she gets up every morning and puts in X number of miles. Do you do that? No. Well then, I guess you don't want to be like that, so stop saying it. Because if you really want to be like that, that's what you got to do. It's no secret. It's not automatic. Nothing good is easy. So we go and we say, we look at this loyalty, honesty, preparation, responsibility, compassion. And we take those 13 character traits, which we all have, and some of them are easy for us and some are hard for us. But that becomes your character and how you behave. And so there can be other terms. Those were terms we used in our curriculum, but there's other. Hard work's not up there. Dedication's not up there. That's thinking for yourself that there could be other stuff. So I go and I would say this, Mr. Wilton on the end. What's your first name? Drew. What's your favorite word? Oh, I like this guy. You didn't hear him, did you? What's your favorite word? Football. Yeah! I like that. That tells me something about him. You take your favorite. I think everybody should have a favorite word because it says something about you. What's your favorite word? I was talking to adults one night and I pointed at a woman out there and I said, what's your favorite word? And she, without hesitation, no hesitation, looked me right in the eye and said, love. And I knew, I could tell. When you say your favorite word, she had emotion in it. That's what I want. When you say a character trait, you should feel it. When you write your favorite word, you should feel it. She said love, and I knew one thing. I tell you what, I bet you what, I would let her babysit my grandchildren. And I don't even know her. But it told me something about her. And when we would talk about this in class, the kids would always say, okay, Mr. Kearns, what's your favorite word? Because most of them would say, you know what the number one favorite word with students is? If I asked and I said, hey, what's your favorite word? Or what's your favorite, or yours? They go, or Those are the two favorites, or Very popular with young people. And he said football. That's awesome. What's your favorite word, Mr. Kearns? No problem, it's integrity. Integrity, yeah. Not because I'm great at it, because I have a lot of respect for that word. Integrity is about toughness. You say, I ask students, what does integrity mean? Well, it means honesty. No, it means more than honesty. Honesty means honesty. Integrity is a different word. Integrity means this. Let's take honesty. How many of you, okay, students, work out, people say, there's no audience participation. Well, then here's your chance. Raise your hand if you're an honest person. Basically, an honest person. That's it? Some of you go, I ain't raising my hand. Well, I don't know. Am I honest? I bet you are. But I bet you another thing. And I learned this in character class. I'd have the best kids in our school, and they'd come in there to character class, and they'd say, you cheat on your schoolwork? And basically all of them said yes. And some of them were really good students, and the way they cheated was they let other people copy their stuff. That's cheating! So is honesty important to you? Yes, but you're a cheater? That's not integrity. That is the opposite of integrity. Integrity means if it's important to me to be honest, I'm going to be honest. Be as honest as I can be. Now you can go and you can argue these points and you can say things like, you can't be honest all the time. You know, I wouldn't want to go, I'm working with some student and I wouldn't want them to say I can't do it, I'm too stupid, and I wouldn't want to go, okay, we're done here. You got to say, no. You can't say things like that. You can't insult people. So sometimes, yeah, you can't be totally honest. You say, Does this outfit look good on me? You got to think before you answer that. Most students at the end of character development leadership chose the word attitude as their favorite word because they could plainly see that it was their attitude, their choice, and attitude affected every character trait we have, their attitude, whether it was positive or negative. You know, we take a character trait of respect. This is one that jumps out at me because people ask me, hey, Mr. Kearns, before I retired, and they say, what have you seen change in your lifetime in teaching? And I'm like, you know, kids are kids, not a lot of change, but the one thing I did see change, and even in kids coming in kindergarten, and I taught them, was the word respect. I think we need to get back to that word a little bit. I think you need to respect your teachers. Now, they can give it up, but we got to start with it. There are positions that are in our groups that we should respect. And you may not like it. You may not always like it. I think we should respect the police. I got a speeding ticket one time. Cop pulled me over, said, do you know why I stopped you? And I lied. I said, no. I knew why he stopped me. I got a ticket. And I could have said, you know what? There were 3 people, maniacs, just past me and you pull me over? Yeah, because I was speeding. I broke the law. I got caught. That's the way it works. Respect must be earned. I hear these people, they don't respect me. Well, then here's your mirror. Should they respect you? Have you earned their respect? Have you done anything? Have you put any effort into being respectable? Have you? Want to improve your performance. You improve your character. What am I looking at for time, Mr. Thomas? 5 minutes. All right, I do this. I apologize. I always do this. I have too much. I want to make sure that I get to this, so I'm going to end with this. And I apologize. Oh, man. Wow. This is all good stuff. Okay, this is where I want to go. I'll finish with this. Quit it! You know, this is a good one. Don't text and drive anymore. How come you guys think, you know, I should be. Okay, where's that one? I want that, Coach. Tell me when to stop. There. In honor of Coach Thomas, his mantra, the thing he said more than anything else, do what's right. Do what's right. That's the hardest thing to do. I say this, Mr. Thomas is the toughest man I ever knew, and I bet you he never beat anybody up. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like he was dominant over someone. He could physically beat him up. It wasn't like that at all. What made him tough was more than any other human I've ever known, he did the right thing almost all the time. He wasn't perfect. He never smoked. He never took a drink. I heard him swear a couple times. A couple. He said the D word. You know the right thing to do. You know, that's part of it. We believe you know what's right to do. You get to make a choice. Everybody, we get to choose. That's a great power to choose. Am I going to do the right thing or the wrong thing? And we're confronted with it multiple times a day, even old people. So we go and we say, the power to choose, the choice of the voice. Which voice do you listen to? And here's the thing. To learn to do what's right, not because it's the law, not because you fear punishment. Do it because you want to live with character. That's true toughness. You want to be tough? Live like that. It feels pretty good. When you do what's right, it feels pretty good. It's intrinsic. You can feel it. And it's a feeling you can't buy it, you can't drink it, you can't smoke it. And that's where people are missing it. They're looking to feel better in all the wrong ways. And the way you feel better, the two things everybody can do to feel better is improve your character. You will feel better, I promise you. And the second thing is help somebody else. If you're feeling down, if you're having a hard time, if things aren't going well, help somebody else, and I guarantee you'll feel better. I promise. You know, Coach Thomas had this FFF thing, faith, family, football, to prioritize your life. And that is, I can tell you, that is how he lived. His faith was number one, his family, and then football. But you get to pick yours. Prioritize your life in a positive way, and then live that way with integrity, but it's hard. I want to thank you for being here today. It means a lot to us. I'd say, where's the cameras today? You know, kids today. Oh, I don't understand kids today. Oh, this is as good as it gets, you guys. And there's nobody here watching. Good character probably won't make you rich and famous. It's just going to feel really good inside. I promise. So we go. Comments from the past academies. Today, everybody's going to say different stuff, but in the end, it's going to sound like the same, because success and living well is a short story. There's different ways to talk about it, different ways to teach it, but there's only one way to do it. There's one way to win, baby. One way. Positive living is a short story, and there's only one way to win. How are you going to leave here today? You either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. Thank you. You've been awesome. Have a great day.
Real quick, Coach Kearns coached football a long time, and Coach is kind of, he's always, I don't know if I'm successful. I don't know if I can still reach young people. I don't know if I can. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give him a game ball, and this one's, we had a former student make this in honor of my 1975 to 2008. That's when my dad was here. And like I said, this guy was a huge part. We would not have leadership academies. 3 people. Number 1 right here. Number 2, everybody turn around and look at Mr. Alderts in the old sound booth. Because Mr. Alderts makes all these graphics, does all that. And then the third one, she's not even here, my wife. Those 3 did all. I come up and speak, and I can get all the credit and things. But those are the 3. And this guy, though, has let it. I want one more round of applause if you think he should continue to speak and talk to young people. Point proven. All right, before we hit break, real quick, I want you to turn to your neighbor. Turn to somebody. Tell them, best thing you heard that you learned today. Let them know, say that, and then here's what we got. You got an 8-minute, 9-minute break, and you're back in here. But you got to tell them, best thing you heard, then go take a break, come back in.
1 half away to reach our first goal, being 2-0 going into district play. You're 1 half away, 24 minutes of football. It is right here for us to take this, right here. You lay everything you got out on that field. Everybody understand? Huh? Let's play with a lot of heart, great effort now, and a lot of pride right here. Let's take this home now. Let's take it home right here. Get out. You ready? Go!
Our goals had nothing to do with winning or losing. We wanted to practice better than we've ever practiced. We wanted to take a 1-0 mentality every week. We want to play with great sportsmanship. I've always believed all the little things accumulated together, the winning will take care of itself. So we never really talked about that. A blue-collar type of mentality. That's sort of what we're about, and that sort of is reflected in our community.
All night, keep coming at them. You got that? Keep coming tonight. All right, we're going out in about 2 minutes.
The relationship you have with God, it's a relationship with your family, relationship with friends. And that has been good for me to get some things back in the proper order in my life. And also to be willing to reach out to other people, to take time to reach out when people are hurting, because so many people have reached out to help us. I think it's made us more aware of things around us, and I would hope to think that our young people will be people into their communities where they live someday, where people will be stepping up and do service projects and help people out in their community.
All right, right here is where we want to be, fellas. This is why we practiced all the time that we put in the off season, is to be right where we're at tonight, and we get to be at home and doing it. I've told you all along, you go out and you have fun and you make memories of what's taken place tonight, because these are moments you never get back. We've handled all kinds of adversity, and one of the strengths of this football team has been your perseverance. There's nothing that we're going to face on the football field that compares to what we've been through as a football team. That's why we'll handle any adversity that takes place. Who's going to reach the deepest? Who has the greater heart? Well, there's no question in my mind, fellas. What we've been through, that's us. But I'm excited every Friday night, every game night. I'm excited to watch you guys play football, because you play it the right way. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity that we have tonight to go in the state playoffs. Lord, these young men have worked extremely hard. They've been through a lot of tests and trials, and it's made them stronger men. It's made us a stronger football team. Lord, tonight we ask you to watch over and be with us, that we play with great effort, great heart, great emotion. I pray that both teams play without injury. Let it be a night that we'll always remember. We give you the glory, the praise, and the credit for everything. We ask this in your name. Amen. All right, a lot of enthusiasm and heart. Let's go have some fun, fellas. Let's go. Don't forget where you're from. Where are we from? Where are we from? Let's go. This is what it's all about right here. Let's go. Let's go.
And I think this group of kids, the rest of their life, will be people who will step up and see someone hurting or someone in need, and will step out and try to help, because they did that throughout the summer. And I think that's the greatest thing that came out of what we went through. And like I told our kids, you're going to be able to, you're living something that most people can only read about, and they have to learn it that way. You're learning it firsthand. And these are lessons they'll take with them the rest of their life. And I think will impact them as men 70, 80 years old, what they went through this year. It's been easy for you to see the importance of our football program to our community. I hope it represents and stands for everything that is good and right. And I wanted what we went through at Parkersburg to exemplify what the people of Iowa are really like, and our people, and I think it did that. And I wanted that to be the message across the country, what it's like in the Midwest, but especially in the state of Iowa. I said this many times, we saw firsthand the goodness of people that you don't read about and hear about in the news anymore. And I don't know if that would have happened in other states. The reaching out and helping like what took place in our state this year.
Don't forget where you're from. Where are we from? Where are we from? Let's go.
All right. So we'll start after the next break. We'll have just short videos. You can kind of see those as you come in, whatnot. Our next speaker, another high energy guy, Coach Jim Miller, wrote a book called Do It Anyway. And Coach Miller he's long been involved with wrestling. He was 8 years as a top assistant at UNI before going on to Wartburg. And when he went to Wartburg College, they had not won a conference championship in 14 years. But Coach Miller retired in 2013 from coaching. He won 21 conference titles in a row. At Wartburg, they had never won any kind of national championship. And it took Coach Miller 5 years to win his first, and he won 9 more for 10 total in 22 years of coaching. Also finished first or second 18 of those 22 years, which is an unbelievable feat. Like I said, Coach Miller has a book, Do It Anyway. He now runs the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, Dan Gable Museum in Waterloo. Let's give a big, warm welcome to Coach Miller.
How we doing today? No school? This is awesome. I love this event. Looked up to Ed Thomas a lot. It's an honor to be here. Great opportunity for all of us. Leadership, so important in our schools and communities today, man. So I encourage you, and I think some of you are, right? If something hits you, something strikes you, hits home with you today, connects it, encourages you, write it down. Write it down so you can take it home. Take it back to the classroom with you. Yeah, I was very fortunate in my life and career. I had way more success than I thought possible when I started. And you know what? You can too. Many things happened in my life along the way that encouraged me enough to think that I could be successful. Because truthfully, I did not always think I could be. I did not have a high thought process. I wasn't real confident. Sometimes just some encouragement, maybe from a friend, family member, teacher, or coach can help you. But for me, I also found out it may be from people you might least expect. And I'm going to share one of those stories with you. Let me share. Back in the day, I went to Waterloo schools. Back in the day, 7 through 9 was together, the grades. It was called junior high. And I loved sports. I played football, wrestled, played baseball. And the week before school started, my 7th grade year, we had football practice started. I was 12 years old, weighed 90 pounds. And I don't understand why, but I became an easy target for a small group of 8th graders on that team. A shove here, a slap across the helmet, comments like, "Man, you're slow. Why are you so small?" It got to the point where I was not looking forward to school or football practice. When school started, it continued. And then the 3rd day of school, I was assigned to the 3rd hour PE teacher helper. Back then, they took 2 students from each study hall to help the PE teacher set up games, have towels ready and available at the end of class. So you had about 30 minutes in between to study or hang out. I was not the only one assigned. A guy named Charles Zanders was also assigned to do the same thing in the same class. And I knew who he was. Everybody knew who he was. Charles Zanders was a 9th grader who happened to be one of the best athletes in school. He was definitely the strongest kid in school. He was one of the most popular He was intimidating. He already had a mustache in 9th grade. He was black, I was white. This picture was taken of Charles his senior year of high school. Couldn't find one earlier, but you get the idea. You get the idea. Charles Anders was larger than life to me. And now we're working side by side. From first glance, it didn't look like we had anything in common. But we found out we did as we got to know each other. Both had large families, 6 kids in each family. Neither family had much. We both lived in a lower income part of town. Both of us had dreams of doing well in athletics. Both of us struggled in math. We actually had a lot in common, and Charles kind of took me under his wing. Gave me advice and information about the school, the coaches, the teachers in our junior high. He even advised me who not to hang out with. Later that week, I was sitting by myself at lunch, and Charles was walking by, going toward the tables most of the 9th graders ate at. Then he stopped, turned around, and he said, "Jimmy, are you eating by yourself?" He came back and sat at my table. A few minutes later, others sat down because Charles was there. After a while, Charles said, "Do you guys know Jimmy? He's my guy." He probably didn't think much of it. That was a big day for me. Because Charles accepted me as a friend, many others did as well. He was a positive leader in our school. And you know what else? Maybe it's a coincidence, but I didn't get picked on again. So many of you here can do similar things. For those in your schools who maybe just need a word of encouragement, or just a simple hello in the classroom, or an invitation to sit with your group and be included in a positive way sometimes. And you know what? You also might make a new friend. I tell you this story because there's so many leaders here today, students that can make a difference for others, to help them find their way. Think about it. You can spend time in school helping others and lifting them up, or you can waste time trying to tear them down. Happens in every school in America. Because you all have influence on others. Your only choice is how you're going to use it. Bottom line, your actions, your words, and how you lead your life is your real life resume, your calling card. It is who you are. Think about that. Your actions, your words, how you lead your life are all things that define you. Things how others see you. And the good thing is you have control of all of it. You can make a change at any time if need be. And you know what? When you help lift others up, you will also find it almost always lifts you up at the same time. By the way, me and Charles are still friends today, 50 years later. 50 years later. Actually, it's over 50 years, but pretty cool. I was a 2-time NCAA champion in college in the sport of wrestling. So people are usually surprised when I tell them, going into my senior year of high school, East Waterloo, I had not even qualified for the state tournament yet. I was not a confident student athlete at that time. Fortunately for me, a new coach came in that year who believed in me, who encouraged me. And I'll never forget him early in that year saying, "Jimmy, when we get to state this year," and he kept talking. I didn't hear another word he said. I'm thinking, Coach thinks I can go to state. Coach thinks I can go to state. My expectations went up, my excitement went up, my work ethic went up. And that was actually the first time in my life I envisioned myself walking into the state tournament as a participant instead of a spectator. You know, sometimes someone else believes in you more than you believe in you. Someone else caring enough to lift you up and encourage you to help you accomplish more than maybe you think you can. I started thinking I could do better, that I could have success because my coach thought I could. And I hope you can think of people in your life that has helped encourage you in some way. And also know you can be that person for others. Sometimes someone else believes in you more than you believe in you. I also believe success can happen anywhere and to anyone. Yeah, let me jump to those 22 years at Wartburg. We did win 21 conference titles in a row. We did win 10 national team titles. We did finish first or second in the nation 18 out of 22 years. But I want you to know, it wasn't always like that. When I got there, we had not won a conference title in 14 years. We had not won a national title in the history of the college in anything. At my interview, I was asked, hey, coach, what do you think can happen here? What do you think can happen? And I had been a top assistant coach at Northern Iowa for 8 years. I had thought about it a lot. I knew wrestling, but I said, you know what? I don't know how long it would take, but I'd like to think we could win a national championship. And that answer just bombed in the committee. Eyes literally rolled at each other in that interview about me. And I'm looking back now, and I kind of understand it because they're probably thinking, do we really want to hire this guy with unrealistic expectations? 10 minutes later, we broke for lunch, and one of the guys on the committee kind of sidles up to me, and he goes, hey, coach, we just don't do that here. We don't win national championships. He was trying to help me out because he knew that answer bombed too with the committee. And he did help me out because I didn't mention that. I didn't say that again the rest of the interview, but I did get the job. My first meeting with the team, and usually college wrestling teams, 35, 40 athletes, something like that. Most good college teams. And I'm thinking, you know what, we probably won't have that many. Maybe 25 show up. 14 showed up, and after the meeting, 6 quit. That was my start at Wartburg. 8 athletes for 10 weight classes. They were not thinking at a high level, these athletes. They were not thinking we can do this. Why? Well, it just never happened before. We just hadn't had that much success. They did not have what I call a success video running in their minds, seeing themselves be successful, seeing themselves having high-level success, seeing their team getting the accolades and awards. No, it was always some other team getting them. It was always somebody else, some other athletes on the podium or whatever it might be at the end of the year. See, how you think has so much to do with how you perform and what you attain, and no matter what you're chasing, no matter what area you want to succeed in, how you think has so much to do with it. Positive self-talk, as Coach Kearns was talking about, so much to do with it. I mean, think about it. When do you ever think small and then achieve big in some? When do you ever think small and then all of a sudden, oh man, I'm at the top of my game? Think small like, I probably can't do this. Or, I'm just not good enough. And then achieve at a high level at something. No, doesn't happen in business, academics, athletics, life itself. So early on in my career when I started, I talked about stuff like this. If not you, who? If not now, when? What about us? Why can't we be good? Is there some rule out there that says we can't have the success we want? Is there some rule out there that you can't? No, man, there's not one. You just got to start thinking different. You got to start thinking bigger. See, I was just trying to plant a visual in their mind of what one championship might look like. What one championship might feel like. Man, what would that feel like if our team's walking up to get the trophy? Instead of us in the stands watching somebody else all the time. What would that feel like? How's that look? That looks pretty good. We need to start thinking different. It might be like one good test score as a student if you hadn't had one. And what that feel like? And the confidence and motivation to do it again. I was just trying to plant a visual in their mind. That's the visual today at the same place. That's the visual. That's not conference championship, that's national championships. And it's so funny. Place goes 60 years without winning one national championship. And fortunately, my team won one. And then in the next 22 years, we had 22 national championships in multiple sports. How in the world did that happen? That's the question I get most often from businesses and everything else. How'd that happen? We thought we could. How you think has everything to do with it. We thought we could. If you start working toward thinking and believing that success is possible, you are in fact closer to success. Working toward thinking and believing that success is possible. Don't rule yourself out. That happens so many times. We can't do that. We just don't do that here. I guess we do, though, don't we? I guess we don't do that here. Who says? Why not us, man? Why not you? Don't buy into that. Success can happen anywhere. And so many times along your journey, success is simply not giving up. It's getting back up and trying again after failure, after negatives happen. We all experience setbacks and disappointments. Yeah, that's part of it too. But I'm going to tell you a story that really hit home for me as a first-year college coach. I was really lucky. I got a chance to go to elite coach athlete seminar at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. And I was not an elite coach at that time, but I got to go. And this is the first time in my life I'd ever heard a sports psychologist in my life. The title of the session that changed me was Getting Rid of the Negative. And the premise was the faster you can get rid of the negative, the better you will be at whatever you do. You'll be a better athlete, better student, coach, administrator, business owner, teacher, son, daughter, mom, dad, whatever it is. And I do know for me, the better I got at getting rid of the negative in my job, the better I got at my job. The better you get at getting rid of the negative in your life, the better your life will be. So, long story short, someone asked this sports psychologist, how many know who Michael Jordan is? Have you heard of Michael Jordan? Okay. Michael Jordan, at this point of this time, this was way back before you were born. This was 1991 at the training center in this session. And the question became, give us an example of somebody that can get rid of the negative the best you've worked with. And the sports psychologist said, the best person I've ever worked with is a guy named Michael Jordan. Now, Michael Jordan, and he was talking about the Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was in his first year with the Chicago Bulls at that time. So a lot of people weren't even sure who he was. And we said, why is he so good at it? He says, I'm going to tell you something. It's like the negative out here tries to get in, they bounce off. He won't let them in. He's not letting it in. He's not letting the negative in. If one gets in, he boots it out right away. He's really good at it. And we said, well, give us an example. What do you mean? He goes, here's the example. Give me the ball. Miss, miss, miss. Give me the ball. Miss, miss. Give me the ball. Make. Win the game. Most people miss. Man, what's wrong with me? Miss. God, I'm terrible. They just keep spiraling down. Michael Jordan, if he missed 5 in a row, totally convinced he's going to make 6. Totally convinced. Give me the ball. And that's why he became the best in the world. How fast can you get rid of the negative in your schooling? I mean, think about it. What are the negatives? What are your negatives? How fast can you get rid of them? School, job, socially, sport, school plays, music, whatever it is. The faster you can get rid of the negative, the better you will be. The last thing that came from that session that now I've kept in me more than 30 years is this right here. Don't let the last disappointment affect the next opportunity coming your way. I mean, it's kind of like, hey, if it's a sport, I miss an easy layup. I dropped a touchdown pass. I made a stupid mistake doing this. How much are you going to hold on to that thing? How fast can you get rid of it? It's not doing you any good to hold on to it. Matter of fact, the longer you hold on to the negative, the worse it gets. Because when you're holding on to the negative, really, the negative's holding on to you. The negative's got a grip on you. Let it go. Boot it out. And the better, and how you get better at it, because the faster you here's how fast it can happen. Right? And the better, and you practice it. The better you get, the easier it becomes. Really helped me in my career. And it will help you. Just that simple concept. Don't let the last disappointment affect the next opportunity coming your way. And here it comes, right around the corner. It's coming. Don't be over here pouting, mad about something else. Be ready to catch it. Be ready to grab it by the throat. And don't let go. Grab that opportunity. Before I close, I'm going to share 2 amazing stories that had a huge influence in my career and my life. It's kind of interesting that these 2 stories are about people your age that had major influence on me in my career. The first story is about the most influential young man I ever coached in 37 years of coaching. I was 24 years old. Man! Just a couple years ago. 24 years old. How old do you think I am now? 25. Yeah, pretty close. 69. 69. I was 24, so however many years ago that was. I was the youngest head coach in the state in my sport. I got the head coaching job at Charles City High School right up the road. Anybody from Charles City? Boom, Comets, baby. Charles City High School. I knew the former coach. I called the coach. I said, Coach, I got the job. Man, got the job. I was so fired up. And he said, I must have been wound up. He says, Coach, settle down. Because I asked him, who's the key kids? Who's the key kids? Who's the captains? Who's the state qualifiers? Because I wanted to talk to those kids first day of school. First day of school. So he says, I tell you what, I'll leave you a note in your mailbox. I go, okay. You can see it the first day of teacher in service, right? So first day of teacher in service, I go in, ask the secretary. I didn't know where they were. Where's mailbox? Over here. Okay. Go to mailbox. There's my note. Note said, Coach Miller, make sure you let Brad Peterson be the wrestling manager. Good luck. And I'm thinking, wrestling manager? I thought I asked about the key kids. Who's Brad Peterson? First day of school, 2 days later, I'm eating lunch in the cafeteria with another teacher, and up rolls Brad Peterson in his wheelchair. Brad Peterson had muscular dystrophy. His body was kind of a little deformed. I don't know if he weighed 80 pounds. But he rolls up in his electric wheelchair, and it's kind of like cafeteria right out here, and he goes, "Are you Coach Miller?" I go, "Yeah." "I'm Brad Peterson. I want to be wrestling manager." I was speechless. I stumbled around a little bit, and I go, "Okay." And he goes, "Okay, Coach," and off he goes. And he's wheeling away in his wheelchair, and I'm looking at him, I go, what am I going to do with this young man in a wheelchair in the wrestling room? Bodies flying all over the place. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I thought back at that note the former coach left me. Make sure you let Brad Peterson be the wrestling manager. Good luck. I'm thinking, maybe he was manager last year. And so the next day, I'm looking for Brad. And I see him in the hallway, and I kind of run him down. I go, "Hey, Brad." He goes, "What's up, Coach?" I go, "Hey, were you manager last year?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "What'd you do?" And he looked at me and smiled and said, "Coach, I ran practice. I blew the whistle." I go, "We got this, man. We got this." I was, "Yeah, okay." Boom, he takes off. I'm happy. I get my shoestring, get a whistle. First day of practice, we carried him up 7 steps. There were 7. It wasn't a handicap accessible room. Up and down every day. Kids did it, no problem. Everybody loved Brad. And but first day, after we do some technique and stuff, I said, "Okay, we're going to wrestle. We're going to wrestle 10 30-second goes to start with. 10 30-second goes. That means Brad blows the whistle, the kids wrestle, 30 seconds later, blows the whistle, we stop and rest. We're going to do that 10 times. Okay, you ready to go, Brad? Yep, ready to go. Boom, we're off and running. I go, "Yeah, we got this. We got this." And I'm on the other side of the room, about, 5 or 6 of those in, and I realized, man, that was a long one. How come the whistle's not going off? And so I walk back over where Brad is, and I realized Brad didn't have enough air to blow the whistle every time. It was like, and sometimes he could, sometimes he couldn't. So if he couldn't get it out, I just say, "Stop or go." And I think Brad was probably worried and told his mom, because I think he thought he disappointed me or something. Because about 3 days later, Mom comes to practice, or Mom comes to see me before practice. And she says, "Coach Miller, I'm Brad's mom. And I want you to know, when Brad comes home from practice, from blowing the whistle, he is totally exhausted." And I thought, she's going to tell me he can't do it anymore. But please let him keep doing it, because he loves it. And I go, "Mrs. Peterson, we love it too. We love it too." This young 24-year-old coach was learning a new definition of what hard was. To see what he had to do to get through the day compared to a 6-minute wrestling match. Seemed real easy, or easy to wrestling match compared to what he was going through. And so I said, "Brad," I promoted him. I said, "You're student coach, bro." I got him a t-shirt, student coach, man. And at our first meet about 3 weeks later, I'm nervous. It's my first wrestling meet in my life as the head coach. And I was nervous. Everybody was nervous. I probably made them nervous, whatever. But anyway, Brad would say, "Hey, you care if I say something to the kids before we go out?" I go, "No." Actually, it was unusual because Brad's pretty quiet. So I said something. I don't remember what I said. Pep talk, whatever. I said, "Brad wants to say a couple words." And so the kids were kind of semicircle around his wheelchair. And Brad said, like, "Oh, I know we're all real nervous and everything, but I want all you guys to know that I wish I could trade places with any of you for your 6 minutes tonight." He was talking about And you know, we had our kids, you know, and just normal. Man, we had a big crowd out there. Oh man, what if I get beat? What if I look stupid? What if I get pinned? All these potential negative. Brad said, I wish I could trade places with any of you. He's talking about opportunity. He's talking about you get to do this, man. Grab it by the throat, enjoy it, man. This is awesome. Opportunity. Change the whole perspective. Change my perspective, because I'm talking about this over 40 years later. I wish I could trade places with any of you for your 6 minutes tonight. We had a good year. The worst part about the whole year, Brad passed away 2 months after wrestling season that year. And I'm at his funeral. And I'm thinking back, man. I thought back about that note, right? Make sure you let Brad Pearson be wrestling manager. And because I was asking about the key kids. And here's this kid, multiple dystrophy, in a wheelchair, was in fact one of the key kids on that team and in that school. So when someone you least expect can positively affect your life, your team, your institution, your organization, everywhere I went after high school coaching, 30 years of college, I made sure our student athletes understood everybody connected to our team adds value to it. Everybody. I'm talking about our secretary, our maintenance, our cafeteria workers, our athletic trainer, our bus drivers, managers. Think about who adds value to your life at school. One of the best part of your day, if you go up and tell someone thank you. Some will be blown away, your maintenance people, cafeteria work. Dude, tell them thank you. Think about people that add value for you and yourself, your organization, your team, so forth. Because I'm going to tell you something. When everybody feels a part of your overall team, you got a stronger team. When everybody feels a part of your team, you got a stronger team. I learned that everybody can contribute and everybody's dream counts. Brad just wanted to be a part of the wrestling team. That same year, the middle school coaches at Charles City came down and said, hey, Coach Miller, we want you to come down and check out our 7th grade team. We have an outstanding 7th grade team. I go, yeah, all right. I went down there 3 times. There was 20 7th graders. Half of them were already good, already had athletic skills, strong, quick, all that stuff. I'm like, dang, these guys are going to make me look good here for a few years. Then the second, some of them weren't so good. One of them in particular, you could tell he's going to be heavyweight. He was slow, chubby, non-athletic, but man, did he work hard. His name was Mark. And the third time I went down there, I go, you know what? That kid is going to make our team probably by his junior year. We just got to keep him out. He's going to make our team. He works so hard, all that stuff. Now I'm going to fast forward 3 years. The sophomore year, Mark walked into the restroom. He didn't look the same. He had put his head down and worked, built himself. He was 225-pound, good-looking, heavyweight athlete. He actually started on the football team his sophomore year as well. Now, back in those days, there was no limit on heavyweight. Today, college and high school, what is it, 285 pounds. 285 pounds. If you weigh more than that, you can't wrestle. Back then, there was no limit. 0. Weigh anything you want. And Mark makes the team, and his mom comes in that week to see me. And usually that ain't never good, for the competition, right? Mom, I know. And she goes, Coach, I just want you to know, we are so excited that Mark made the varsity as a sophomore. But are you worried that Mark has to wrestle this young man from Fort Dodge who's 150 pounds more than Mark, weighs 150 pounds more than Mark? I hadn't even thought about it. I didn't put it together. But this young man from Fort Dodge was ranked number 1 in the state. He weighed 375 pounds. 375 pounds. I'm like, oh. I go, I didn't know what to say, so I finally, her name was Sharon. I go, Sharon, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. She goes, okay, coach. And she leaves. And I walk over to the other coaches, and hey, man, you realize this guy, Mark's 150 more pounds? We were worried. We needed Mark. We couldn't let him get hurt. We didn't have another heavyweight. So that tournament, I'm thinking, maybe this kid will be sick or something. Maybe, I just don't want, we just can't have Mark get hurt. So we get there, big tournament. Mark makes the finals of the tournament with the number 1 guy. And I'm thinking, man, Mark made the finals this tournament. That is outstanding. But I wanted to tell Mark, it's okay to get pinned. Don't get hurt. Just don't get hurt. Because Mom was sitting in the front row, right here. Mom was sitting in the front row just like this. Dad was in the top row of the stands. They were together, but when Mark wrestled, they were not together. And I was almost hyperventilating seeing Mark walk out there, this little sophomore. He wasn't little, but sophomore against this. He looked little against this other kid. And they started wrestling. And about a minute in, they get all tangled up and fall to the mat, and Mark pins this kid in a minute. I look at his mom, I go, I told you. Man, I'm a good coach. I can't believe it. So Mark is the next week, Mark's ranked number 1 in the state. Because that kid was number 1 in the state, and he just beat him. His name is Mark Sindlinger. You guys know who I'm talking about, I bet. Mark Sindlinger wins the state championship as a sophomore. He wins state championship as a junior. In between the junior and senior year, he goes to the national freestyle championships and wins that. Which means going into his senior year of high school, he's the number 1 heavyweight in America. That's the same slow, chubby, non-athletic 7th grader. Number 1 heavyweight in America. The next year at state, he pins everybody in a minute or less. And then that good-looking guy in his arms, that's Coach Miller. Look at that beautiful head of hair, mustache. Oh, man, that was money, that mustache. So I didn't want him jumping on me, so I jumped in his arms. He's carrying me around just like this. 1 arm, no big deal. He was first-team All-State football the last 2 years and one of the best players in the state. And Iowa football coaches were at our meets every home meet, 3 or 4 of them usually. Hayden Fry was the coach. I don't know if you remember that name. And Mark comes up and says, you know what, Coach? I'm going to Iowa. I go, yeah, I get it. They did a great job recruiting you and everything. He goes, but I think I might want to do both sports. I go, what are you talking about? Well, I think I might want to do wrestling and football. And I go, football they're going to a bowl game every year. They don't even get done till January 1st. How are you going to do that? I don't know, but that's kind of what I want to do. And most people were telling him, hey, man, you got to pick one. You can't do both. Or maybe you go to a smaller school. Maybe you can do both at a smaller school. He said, no, I want to go to Iowa. I want to do both. And so I said, okay, good luck. Mark Sindlinger did both. He started 3 years at Iowa center, went to a bowl game every year, including the Rose Bowl, was all Big Ten, and was a 2-time All-American for Dan Gable and the wrestling team. It was amazing. So he helped me think bigger. He helped me start thinking about, when I got to Wartburg, we hadn't won anything, but why couldn't we? We could. Most people can't do that, play both sports. Most people can't do one sport, do both sports successfully like that at a high level. And it also taught me, hey, don't pick too soon who's going to be the best athlete. Don't pick too soon who's going to be the best student, the best band, piano, whatever it might be. Don't pick too soon. So many of you out there, hey, where you're at right now has nothing to do with a couple years, 2-3 years from now, if you want to be good. If you want to be good at something, whatever you're chasing. Success can happen anywhere to anyone that wants it, that's willing to put in the work and start thinking bigger. Start thinking bigger. All right, I'm going to close with this. Brad Peterson and Mark Sindlinger were both high-level leaders. I want you to understand, leaders can come in all shapes and sizes. Mark was one of the best athletes in America. Brad Peterson was a young man in a wheelchair who had trouble blowing the whistle. Both were high-level leaders. Both gave high-level effort and didn't give up when things got tough or when people doubted them. You can too. You can be that high-level effort, high-level leader as well. I'm going to finish my talk with 4 pieces of advice that I've given to hundreds of college students and athletes. And the first one is, ask for help when you need it. Think about that. Ask for help when you need it, no matter what it is. Do not be afraid to ask for help. It might be school, might be work, sports, activities you're in, family, whatever it might be. If you need help, don't be afraid to ask for help. Very few things can't be fixed, especially if we know early on. Ask for help when you need it. 2, put your head down and work day to day. Get in a habit. I call it a success habit. Put your head down and go to work day to day, and not just the days you feel like it. Just get in a habit wherever you feel like. And pretty soon, that habit will just be part of who you are. It'll be in your DNA. It won't be a big deal like I'm just going to work because that's what I do. That's who I am. You may amaze yourself what you can accomplish just going to work day to day. Put your head down and work day to day. Ask for help when you need it. Put your head down and work. 3, dare to think and dream bigger than you are right now. How you think has everything to do with how you perform and what you attain in your life. Dare to think and dream bigger. Ask for help, put your head down and work. Dare to think and dream bigger than you are right now. And the last one is, don't listen to anybody that tells you you can't. Don't listen to anybody that tells you you can't have high-level success. You know what? They don't get to decide. You do. You decide that. You decide where you end up. Don't listen to anybody. Ask for help, put your head down and work. Dare to think and dream bigger. Don't listen to anybody that tells you you can. Thank you for having me today. It's been my honor.
Thank you, Coach Miller. Great advice once again. Always appreciate you coming down to do that.
You man.
So real quick, we're going to take another break. First, turn to your neighbor. What's one similarity you heard from Coach Miller that you also heard from Coach Kearns? Turn to your neighbor, talk to that, and tell them the best thing you heard Coach Miller say. As you get that, we'll start back at 11:05. 11:05, please be back in here. Coach Kearns, I have
doesn't take a lot to make a difference. It doesn't take a lot to change a life.
Coach loved the Sacred Acre. There's no question about it. He would never call it that. You could remember back to the times where you go by at 8 o'clock at night and he's crawling on his hands and knees and picking weeds, dandelions, whatever it might be.
I think it's important for the Thomas family to release this book because the world needs to know what hope means after such a tragedy as we had here in Parkersburg.
Well, I think the book has God as the center. I just think that is just so important for people to get from this book, that you can live your life every single day doing little things for people that really can amount to huge things in the end.
Oh, the readers can learn so much from what Coach did, the way he lived his life. He was a man that lived by his word, and he wouldn't go back on that.
When we give, expecting nothing in return.
We wanted to share that, share how one man's faith and how he tried to live it out could really impact a lot of people.
My wife, it was so funny because she was dealing with issues with her own father and forgiveness and this, and she goes, I feel so pathetic, about here's a family who has forgiven someone for something of this magnitude, and I'm holding a grudge over. So it solved a huge problem in our family probably by 12 o'clock today.
I hope people learn from the book that any job is important, like Ed always said, and none of us are too small to make an important part in the world.
It only takes a heart to feel compassion. It only takes a hand to touch one life.
By reading the book, they can be inspired, they can have hope. Everybody goes through a tragedy, and I hope this book can inspire somebody to move forward, to carry on, and to pick up and carry on the legacy of whoever they've lost, because everybody loses somebody.
I've learned that if you can improve your character a little bit, you're better at everything you do. And I think that was, what drew people to him once they got to know him, is that he was so kind and he had great character, and people admire that. It takes a lot of courage to be like that.
Coach always talked about going out and playing 4 quarters because he believed that the fourth quarter was the most important quarter of a game, not just because that's the toughest time, but it's because it transfers over into life.
All right. Well, one more session, okay? Hopefully you got enough juice to get through one more. Hopefully not too asleep. For me, my name's Aaron Thomas. I'm Ed Thomas's oldest son, also the high school principal here at Applington Parkersburg. And to me, obviously, it means a lot to have each of you be willing to come to the advisors. I thank you for being willing to bring your kids selfishly to watch those videos, hear my dad's voice. Is something I'm appreciative of. Dave Bingham, where you at, David? Stand up. Stand up. So this guy here, the year after the tornado, David followed around the AP football team and made a whole documentary for Casey's, not knowing what would happen the next year. So a lot of this video that our family is fortunate enough to have is because of that guy back there, David. And I thank him for bringing his kids, for what he was able to capture, having no idea what that would lead to. But thank you very much, Dave, for that. It means an awful lot to us. So last talk today, and for me, and there's some of these things that I wrote in here that you've already heard. And to Coach Kearns' point, it's not always new success. There's not these magic formulas. It's kind of the same thing over and over and over. To Coach Miller's point, do it anyway. Days you don't feel like doing it, do it anyway. The things that Coach Kearns talked about. But my dad, we talked about FFF was big for him. Faith Family Football, that was his deal. And the thing that I took away as a young person is, And what I challenge you with is when you figure out what your 3 words are, or what it is you're going to be about, the challenge is, can you keep going that way? Because the thing with my dad, he never changed. It didn't matter who he hung around, he was always the same person. In our world today, so often, young people, if I'm with this group of people, then I'm going to act like this and I'll talk like this. And then if I go over here and I'm with these people, then I got to talk like this or dress like that. And then over here, then I got to be this. And you're nobody. You're like a chameleon. And one of the best stories I heard after my dad passed away, talked to some guys and they said, I'll never forget, we were up at Matt's. Okay, back then it wasn't called Matt's, but where Matt's was, it was the White Bear. And we were up at Matt's and we were sitting there eating, and my dad never went out to eat. His idea of going out to eat was just go and pick it up, bring it back home, or usually he was making my brother or I or my mom go get it and bring it. For some reason, my dad went there this night. And this is back when you could still smoke. And there's all these former players were here, and they were sitting there on a Saturday night, and they said, I'll never forget. We're sitting there smoking and drinking, and all of a sudden your dad walks in to get his pickup order. And he goes, he did, and all of a sudden these guys are 25, 30 years old. They're trying to hide their beer and their cigarettes because they knew what my dad was about. And they didn't want to disappoint him at 25. See, my dad didn't change. And I'm not perfect at that, but when you can figure out what it is you're going to stand for, young people, then it doesn't matter what everybody else wants to do. And unfortunately, in our world today, you will never be completely happy until you figure out who you want to be first. Because you got to know who you want to be. Because if you're trying to please everybody, think about how divided our world is, to Coach Kearns' point. If you don't know what you're going to stand for and you want everybody else, there's so many opinions and so many things out there, you'll never, ever outfigure who you want to be, and you're going to run yourself crazy. Real quick, here's an activity I want. On your page, first thing I want you to write, I want you to write the best teacher you ever had. And I want you to write, or coach, teacher or coach you ever had, don't care what grade level. And I want you to write what made them that. What characteristics did they have? And teachers, you can do this as well. Best teacher or coach you ever had, what is it about them that made them so good? What is it that made them your favorite? I'm going to give you a minute or two. Okay, now go to the far other side of your piece of paper. Now, students, take a look around in case this person, I want you to write the worst teacher you ever had. And I want you to write what was their characteristic. Why were they the worst teacher you ever had? Okay, hold on, here's my question. Did anybody write that they were really good at math or English or science? Did anybody write that the reason they were your favorite teacher because they really, really knew their content very well? Did anybody write that? Not one. What characteristics did you write down? Turn and talk to a neighbor. What are the things that people that meant most? And then I will talk to you as a whole group because I'm almost certain I know what's on that paper without looking. Talk to your neighbor. Best teacher, worst teacher. Don't worry about names, but what is it about them that made them the best? All right, if I can get you back together. Here's my guess. You wrote something along the lines of how they made you feel. Good or bad. How they made you feel. Because at the end of the day, and for the teachers in the room, it doesn't matter how smart you are or your content, or all that matters is the relationship and how do you make people feel. You either empower them or you make them feel worse. Students, as leaders, you have this same power. You have this 100% this same power. How you impact all your fellow students. Do you make them feel better about themselves or do you make them feel worse about themselves? And that's something only you can answer. When you look in the mirror, Coach Kearns talked a lot about looking in that mirror. That's a real thing. My question, imagine 550 of you. If each and every one of you only made people feel better about themselves, how much better would your school, your community, our world be? And you're like, oh, it's only 500. There's 558 of you. If you do that every day, all day, to every single person you came in contact with, and if you've had this negative thought about somebody, you just kept it to yourself, what would that look like in our world? But it's a choice. It can be done. Last thing on here that I want you to think about, do you take time to set goals for yourself? Think about what you heard Coach Miller talk about, things Coach Kearns talked about. Guys, you got to take time. In our world, you're so busy, and you're always plugged in, and you're always on your phone, and you're always listening to music, and you're always looking at a screen. You never take time to just sit and think. You never take time to just be still. But I challenge you, if you want to become successful, you have to know what you want to be successful at or in. And take a minute, and I don't care if the only thing you write in this booklet all day, I challenge you, write 3 words that you want to be about and write some goals. What do you want to achieve? Maybe it's going to college. Maybe it's going right to work. Maybe it's you're going to be a better student. You're going to be a better brother or sister, better son or daughter, whatever. Set yourself some goals. And then you take those goals and you put them somewhere you can see them every day. Because the thing with the goal is, and I forget the percentages, but when you write them down and you see them daily, the percentage of that actually happening is so much more. Everybody says, oh, we're going to go win a state championship. I'm going to be a starter. I'm going to be the lead in the musical. I'm going to be an FFA officer. I want to lead in the play. But they don't write it down, and they don't do anything to get themselves to there. You got to have goals, but you got to have steps on what it is you're going to go for, what you're going to do. Talking about leaders, so I'm going back a little bit, and we already did this. The coaches, what's those characteristics? Because that quote, I think I'm big on it. No one cares what you know until they know you care. And if you're a junior, senior in your school, that is 100% revolves to your youngers. Because in our world today, how many of you want to make a lot of money when you're older? Okay? The way it's going to be, leadership. It's the most lacking thing in our world right now. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's not going to be your grade point. And we're going to get into some of that stuff later. Today, we're going to take 1 minute. I want you just, first things that come to your mind, on your sheet, I want you to write 3 words that matter to you, or 3 words, and maybe you get more. Right now, I don't care if you write 10, 12 words, and then maybe later you're going to come back. But when you think about words that you want people to use to describe you, you know, because unfortunately, we're all going to be gone at some day. We're not going to live forever. What 3 words or 4 words or 5 words do you want people to say or think about you? Is it they were kind, they were a positive attitude, they worked really hard, they were dependable, they were whatever it is. And maybe you write a bunch of words right now and you're going to think about it later and you're going to go through. Come up with your own faith, family, football, whatever that might be. But I want you to just take a minute, because we never do this, and I want you to just write words that mean something to you. And I want you to write, what are you passionate about? Take a minute, write those things down. You're all either doing a great job or you're faking it really well. So thank you. All right. Go back to that if you're not done. Spend time on that later today. Take some time, figure that out. Because here's the deal. If you don't decide what you want to stand for or what you want to be, someone else will decide it for you. How that's going to happen? All of a sudden, if you don't know what you're going to be about, if you don't decide as a student, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to do drugs, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to have sex, I'm not going to, whatever it might be. If you don't decide that, somebody else will decide for you. And the way that's going to happen is all of a sudden you're going to go down to the parking lot on a Friday or Saturday night, and everybody's going to say, hey, hop in the car with us. And all of a sudden we're going to go drive, and then all of a sudden there's beer there or there's marijuana there. Hey, just try this. Hey, just take a sip. Hey, you'll like it. And if you don't decide beforehand that you're not going to do that, my guess is you'll give in to peer pressure because you're in that moment. Now, here's the thing. First time you do it, it's going to be hard to say no. First time, it's going to be hard to say no. And then all of a sudden, there's going to be a second time. and it gets a little easier. You say no, and then there might be a third time, but pretty soon you know what happens? People stop asking you because they know they don't do that. Now, maybe you're somebody who's maybe made some of those choices in the past. Maybe you haven't made the best decisions. It's going to be harder for you, but you can change. It'll be harder for you, but you can change and say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And they're going to ask, and you might get teased and this and that a little bit, but be strong enough in who you want to be. Because at the end of the day, it matters. Seniors, how many seniors here today? Raise your hands. Seniors, right now, you're king of the world, king or queen of the world, running the show. You know what happens here in 10 months? For those of you going to school, you know what you become? A freshman. So think about, how are you treating the freshmen at your school? Think about everything you've worked for and this reputation you build here wherever it is you go. And I don't care if you go to work, if you go to college, or you go to the service, you're starting over. And everything everybody knows about you is going to have to start again. But think about how we're treating those folks. Freshmen, who do you want to be? Big thing my dad was big on, platforms and opportunities. For folks, we all going to have them. My dad got all this national attention in 2005. At that time, Appleton, Parkersburg, we had 4 guys playing pro football. So we had 4 guys in the NFL from this small town, and all of a sudden the New York Times comes to Parkersburg. And they write this article about my dad and our football program and our community. And then ESPN shows up, and they do a feature in this story. And some of you may have even been in kindergarten. The seniors might have been about kindergarten age when that happened. But all this publicity, and my dad ends up getting National High School Football Coach of the Year. And because of that, my parents that year got to go to the Super Bowl. So they go to the Super Bowl, and there's this banquet with all these Hall of Fame NFL coaches and Hall of Fame NFL players and all these celebrities in this famous banquet room. And they tell my dad, Ed, you get 2 minutes to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. You can talk about your 4 guys from small town Iowa. You can talk about your life lessons in coaching, whatever it is, just keep it short. And I'm teaching and coaching at Union at this time. I'm at Union High School. And I called my mom, and I talked to her. I said, what'd Dad talk about? What'd he say? And my mom just said, well, your dad talked about what he's most proud of. And for that, I'm going to take you back, because if you sat in my dad's government or econ classes, because he taught what Mr. Getch taught here at AP. And the first lesson he taught us that was never in our textbooks, but he tells us if we're from Appleton, Parkersburg, we're from somewhere special, and we can become whatever it is we want to be. Doctors, lawyers, mechanics, pro athletes, anything you want to be because of where you came from. And at Detroit, my dad, in front of all these celebrities, famous people, my dad talked about Parkersburg and Appleton Parkersburg High School. As my Uncle Greg told me when my dad passed away, he said, Aaron, I really think your dad thought Parkersburg was the center of the universe and everything else rotated around it. That was his mentality. But you know what? It was contagious. Because folks and teachers, advisors, I'm telling you, because when advisors and teachers think they work somewhere special, it gets real easy for young people to buy in. That it's not like this everywhere else. That it's just not another school, another place, but you're excited to be here. And for my dad, I think that was one of his biggest things. But to me, to hear him talk about that, the fact nobody had been to Parkersburg in that ballroom. My dad didn't care that we don't have a stoplight here. This was the greatest place on earth. And it was that mentality. And folks, if you don't take pride in where you're from and in your school, who is going to? Who's going to? If you don't have enough pride to pick up our hallways or clean up the locker room or pick up in the lunchroom, who's going to do it? The answer would be nobody. And then all of a sudden, seniors and juniors especially, I'm putting it on you. If all of a sudden our school is a pit or it's a party school in this, what are the freshmen, sophomores going to follow? Because that's all they know. That's all they know. It's leadership. And if you don't like your school culture, who can change it? Nobody but the older guys. It's got to start there. Older juniors, seniors, it's got to start with you. Sophomores, if they're doing a crappy job, take over. Lead the freshmen. Get it going the right direction. But you got to think about where you're coming from. That platform and opportunity, national stage, all this stuff written about him, he talked about our community. First time I learned platforms and opportunities don't always come because of good things came May 25th, 2008, when Parkersburg was hit by an EF5 tornado. On that day, 1/3 of our residents, so imagine every person sitting basically from right here over, okay, all of you losing everything you own. That's what happened in this community. There's kids in this auditorium, young, but went through that tornado. 7 people in Parkersburg lost their life that day. And all of a sudden, all this devastation had come back, and again, I'm at Union High School, come back home, relieved to see my mom and dad both okay, my brother was okay. And as we start showing, all of a sudden, media starts showing up. And they starting all this devastation, then they started doing interviews. My dad did all these interviews, and he kept getting interviewed over and over and over. And what I learned is every time I listened to my dad, his message was the same. He said, well, we're going to dust ourselves off, we're going to get ourselves up, and we're going to move forward. He said, Parkersburg will be better after this tornado than it was before. And he meant it, and he believed it. But when he spoke, a couple things I took away that I heard. Number one, I never heard him say I. He never made it about him. It was about we. Yes, my parents lost their home, high school destroyed where my dad spent all his time, City Hall where my mom worked destroyed. Everything my parents owned was pretty much destroyed. But they knew there was people out there with worse. It was about we. The other thing I'll never forget talking to him, he said, Aaron, we got to have a positive vision. So we want to play football in 100 days, just so we could have something normal. He wanted to have one of the first houses rebuilt in Parkersburg to show people, don't leave, it's going to be okay, we can do this. That's where leadership comes from. And going through the other things that became clear to me. 2,000 people live in Parkersburg. For 2 straight weeks, 2,000 volunteers came here to help clean up. And when they did, my dad saw former students, former staff members, former coaches, people who had lived in our community who came back to help. And I would tell you, he got teary-eyed every time. Our 4 NFL guys could have all just wrote my dad a check. Coach, here's some money for the school. But they wrote it, they came back and helped. Why'd they help? Because of the teachers who helped them. And the biggest thing and the lesson he always finished with, they never forgot where they came from. Young people, how many, real quick, show of hands, plan to live either in your hometown where you're at right now, live there the rest of your life? How many plan to live in your community the rest of your life? Not a ton of hands, and that's okay. But here's what I'm going to tell you, folks. Wherever it is you end up and wherever you go, you make sure you take your hometown with you. Because I promise you this, our world needs an awful lot more Parkersburg and Clarksville and Appleton and Cedar Falls and Galena and Storm Lake and Wilton and who I'm missing more? Clear Lake. But you know what I'm saying? Because I've been to New York City and I got to go speak in Colorado. Last week I spoke in Arizona and Seattle, Washington, and I guarantee you, Seattle, Washington needs an awful lot more of Iowa than our world needs of Seattle. Homeless, unbelievable, political divide. Folks, you don't get it right now, but you live in probably the greatest place on earth there is. You don't think, oh, it's boring. We don't have it. It's boring. Someday you will appreciate boring. And my guess is you're going to go off and go do some great things. And then all of a sudden you're going to start to maybe have a family. And all of a sudden that small town or that place you grew up in the middle, it's like, man, maybe that's not such a bad place. But platforms and opportunities, folks, they don't always come because of good. Never forget where you came from. My platform, my opportunity came easily the worst day of my life, June 24th, 2009. 7:56 that morning, my mom called me on my cell phone. I was between Ames and Ankeny on I-35. My mom was a volunteer EMT for 29 years here in Parkersburg. Call came in, Paige, she thought there was a construction accident. This new high school is just being built, almost completed. Mom calls me, said, Aaron, somebody came in the weight room, shot your dad multiple times. Doesn't look very good. We're going to try to get him stabilized and airlift, flown to Iowa City. She said, I need you to get a hold of your brother. I need you to get a hold of your grandma Thomas. I need you to get a hold of your dad's siblings, let them know before they see it on the news. Said, I got to go. So call, obviously, surprised what I hear. I tried to get a hold of my brother. He was in Jamaica at a college roommate's wedding. Get a hold of him 5 minutes before he saw on national news what had happened. Call my Uncle Greg. He gets one of his sisters to tell my grandma Thomas what's happened. Mom calls me back, tells me to go to Covenant Medical Center in Waterloo. When I got that call, I knew that meant my father had passed away. And when I got that call, go to the hospital, had the opportunity to see my dad. For me, I needed that. Talked to Todd 6 months later, about June 24th. Todd said, Aaron, I needed to be far away. I couldn't deal with it. And folks, here's what I'm going to tell you. Dealing with tough things in your life, not everybody does it the same. You see, that day, I wanted to hear every detail, know exactly what was happening. Todd, he couldn't handle that right now. He didn't want anybody to know he was Ed Thomas' son. He didn't want any part of doing that. It was different. And so, folks, when you go through tough things and you're gunning, I promise you, But understand, not everybody reacts the same. Mr. Flanagan, great friend of mine, our counselor. Mr. Flanagan's deal, he makes jokes. That's just who he is. Nancy, his wife, she'll hug you up, love him, they don't act the same. And honestly, the only way you're making a mistake, young people, is if you don't deal with it at all. You can't just push it aside. And if you think by seeing a counselor or talk to somebody you're weak, you're 100% wrong. In our world today, there's this stigma, and I don't understand it for the life of me with mental illness. Because here's the deal. If I have high blood pressure, I go take medicine. If I have asthma, I take an inhaler. But if I'm struggling with mental health, for some reason in our world, we say, oh, we can't go get help. It's crazy. It's crazy. Because you do it for anything else. So don't get off those paths, but that platform, that opportunity. So I see my dad, even though he's passed. My mom and I were leaving the hospital. And the Department of Criminal Investigation, the DCI, stops us in the hallway. Coach Kearns was there. They said, hey, sorry, but we're going to need a statement from your family. We need a press release. And so they assign us this lady. We go back to my parents' house. Family and friends are starting to gather, and this lady starts telling us everything we should say. And all I can envision, kind of, you watch your local news, picture pops up, words scroll across, they all sound like the same thing. The reason I learned is the same people write them. Back to being in third grade, knowing I want to be a teacher or coach, and I'm not ashamed to say I want to be just like my dad. I said, Mom, do you care? I'll go do the press conference. I just watched for 13 months my dad do all kinds of press conferences after the tornado. So I go and I speak. My platform, my opportunity was 3 o'clock that afternoon in our elementary gymnasium with 100 media people there. And when I spoke that day, 2 things I can tell you. Number 1, nothing sank in what had happened. We hadn't had a murder in Parkersburg since 1923. So never did I think something like that had happened. Number 2, when I spoke, I tried to say exactly what my dad would have said had he been able to be there to speak for himself. See, I know Mark Becker's parents didn't want their son to kill my dad. I don't question that. But if I get up there and I start blaming this or saying this, everything my dad worked 58 years for goes right out the window in a matter of seconds. See, it was real easy being Ed Thomas's son when he was National Coach of the Year, getting to be the ball boy on Friday night, all those awards, accolades. That was easy. But what's it going to be like in the toughest of moments when my dad was killed? What was his legacy? What did he teach me? Because, folks, anybody can lead when things are going well. That's easy. But who can lead when you face tough times? Because think about it. It's easy to lead when you're undefeated. What I'm really anxious to talk to Coach Pollock this week for the AP guys, now that we've lost a game in football, who responds? Who leads now? If I don't get the lead part in the musical and I show up, am I pouty? Am I whiny? Or do I embrace my role? If I didn't get to be the president of the FFA, if I don't get the part I wanted in speech, what is my attitude towards the group? Because unfortunately in our world today, it's all about me. Can you be bigger than that? Can you be a part of something? Because, folks, anybody can lead when it's easy. But that's not when leadership's needed. Platforms and opportunities, young people, you're all going to have them. And I hope it's not because of a murder. Okay? But some of you are going to have worse. And I understand that. And I know that. What do you do with it? Leading through adversity, we're all going to face it. Okay? One thing I'll tell you, we're all going to lose loved ones. Unfortunately, at your age, you're probably starting to experience that with grandparents, if nothing else. And the deal with that is we don't always get to pick when, why, or how, nor do you always get the goodbye you think you maybe deserve. But I will challenge you and tell you, you do get to honor those people. Not a day goes by my dad doesn't still impact me to try to be the best person I can be, to be the best principal I can be the best husband I can be, best dad I can be. Am I perfect? Far from it. But I still want to make my dad proud. That doesn't change. And folks, when those people who are gone are no longer with you, you choose how that's going to respond, but we're all going to lose loved ones. The second thing I can tell you, okay, things are going to happen to you that you do not ask for and you do not deserve. Maybe your parents' relationship went bad, okay? Maybe you've had a relationship go bad. Maybe people say things about you that aren't true. Statistically speaking, in this room, unfortunately, there's people who've been physically or sexually abused, of which nobody deserves and nobody asked for. But in all those moments, young people, here's what I'm going to tell you. You're the only one who decides how you deal with it. Mark Becker decided to kill my dad June 24, 2009. Not a day goes by I don't think about that date. But it's not going to determine who I'm going to be. Folks, we got to decide, can we dust ourselves off, get ourselves up, and move forward? You don't forget. It's still a part of who you are, but it's not going to define you. Mark Becker's not going to determine who I'm going to be as a person because it's a decision he chose to make. I got to get up and move forward. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one who decides how you respond. My dad loved this quote: when you face adversity, 3 things to help you get through it. Number 1, life's 10% what happens to you, but more importantly, it's 90% how you choose to respond. See, I can be bitter, I can be angry, I can feel sorry for myself. I can be as mad as I want to be that somebody killed my dad, but at the end, it's not gonna change. If I'm bitter and angry, all I'm gonna do is cheat my 3 boys out of the dad they deserve, cheat Ellie, the husband she deserves, and you young people that I get to be the principal for, you be cheated the principal, all for something I can't change. By responding in the manner in which our family did, I've been blessed with unbelievable experiences and opportunities. In the summer, I used to detassel to make extra money. Not so much fun. Now I travel around and speak. Go stay in fancy hotels, speak at nice ballrooms, take my family on some nice vacations, get paid well to go tell my story. But if on June 24, 2009, my response is different, I don't have that opportunity. I don't have that chance. Why I am what I am. I'm going to tell you, I had the 30th easiest years of life a person could have. Easy. Loved high school, had everything I thought mattered, was a pretty good student. More importantly, loved sports. Got to play in the state football championship. Got to play in the state basketball tournament. Ran the state track meet. Everything I thought mattered, was able to have success with. Got to go play college basketball and get a free education at Drake. Travel around our country playing a game. Marry my wife, and those of you who know Ellie, I overachieved, she underachieved. Fellas, I'm going to tell you, overachieving marriage, it's always better to be on that side of the coin. Dad of 3 great kids. Was at Union High School. My life was easy, then I lose my dad. First tough thing I ever had to deal with, and I can tell you that. And looking back, my childhood, my dad didn't have that upbringing. My dad grew up the son of an alcoholic. Coach Kearns said earlier, he never drank or smoked once. That's a fact. Reason why, his dad was an alcoholic. My childhood was easy because my dad decided to be different. Young people, I don't care what your home is, you get to decide your branch of your family tree. So if you got a family tree that's maybe not good, maybe not going so well, at some point you get to be the branch to go this way. And then you know what? Then your kids don't even realize what you went through. And then you know what? Your grandkids, because you can talk to Gavin or Trevin, they have no idea what my dad's childhood was like because theirs has been easy. Why? Because he was different. 10% what happens, more importantly, 90% how do you choose to respond? And only you can decide that. Another thing I often heard growing up, somebody has it worse than you do. Do you understand, young people? Some of you, home's tough, and you go through some things. But do you understand, in this auditorium of 550 people, only one of us can have it the worst? There's only one person in here that you can't trade places with down for a worse experience, worse home, worse whatever. Only one person. So while things may not be great, there's still somebody in here, except for one of you, who has it the worst? And how do you make that better? How do you change that environment? Oh, that's just who I am. That's what my parents do. That's what I'm going to be. Doesn't have to be that way. But only you decide that. Fortunately for me, I had a dad who decided that wasn't going to be who he was. He was going to be different. Because of it, my life's been easy. I've been blessed and fortunate. Teammate Dante Harris, Drake University. Dante grew up in foster care his entire life. Never had a mom and dad. Never had a foster family. Third highest ranked gang member in Seattle. Or Tacoma, Washington, actually, where he grew up. When he graduated high school, he was the father of 2 kids already. Terrible grade point. Got himself to San Francisco Junior College. Turned his life around, comes to Drake, full ride, 6'9", unbelievable competitor. Dante and I roomed together. He was a junior college kid. I was a sophomore. Roomed together, first road trip, getting to know him a little bit. Dante, why'd you come to Drake of all places? Dante said, Aaron, I thought all you people in Iowa had was cornfields, and my kids would be safe here. See, every Drake basketball game, I had 2 parents sitting in the stands cheering me on, bring me cookies, take me out to eat, all those great things parents do. Dante Harris never once experienced that. So at 30 years old, when my dad got killed, am I going to call Dante Harris and say, hey, can you believe somebody killed my dad? Here's a guy who never, ever had a dad. Folks, it's about our perspective. Yes, you're going to go through tough things in your life, but more importantly, how is it you're going to respond? And remember, you're going to have some poor me, but it can't live in it. Make sure it's a moment. It's got to be a moment, and you got to move forward. Because at the end of the day, nobody in the world is going to feel sorry for yourself. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. And that's a harsh reality, but it's a fact. Last thing I think, when you're faced with adversity here, Dad said it all the time, greatest gift God's given us is the power to choose. Folks, you have to make choices. It shapes who you are as people. I love this quote on the bottom. We do not have We do not have the freedom of consequence. So you make choices. Anybody, any idea what that means? We do not have freedom of consequence. You have the right, or choice, not the right. You have the choice to go drink and drive, text and drive. You do not have the right of the consequence. If you hit somebody, can you live with it? If you were texting and driving, you hit somebody and killed somebody, are you willing to accept that consequence? You have the right to make the choice. You do not have the right for the consequence. And that's an extreme one, but everything in your life you do, there's choices and there's consequences to those actions. And every day you got to think about that. I don't doubt nobody would text and drive on purpose and run into somebody. Nobody do it on purpose. Is it avoidable? Yes. Do we have to put that thing down? Buzz, buzz, buzz. Oh gosh, buzz. It's addiction. And I'm not perfect at that. I'll be up front. But that's something I got to decide with. Attitude, one of the most powerful things we possess. Okay? I'm going to give you, in your book, there's a poem. It's Attitude Poems in there. I thought I put that page number. Young people, I think your attitude is one decision you choose each and every day. And with your attitude, understand it's going to make everybody around you either better or it's going to make them worse. Because you think about the people you most like to be around are people with a positive attitude. After my dad was killed, Mr. Thompson, Coach Kearns and I met 2 days later in the elementary library. He talked to all the football team because we had 22 young people in the weight room experience my dad's murder. Coach Kearns, we explained what was going to happen with the funeral, and Coach Kearns calls me in the back room. He may not remember this. He said, Aaron, I got to meet with the superintendent, school board here, a couple hours. They want to know how do we move forward after losing your dad? He said, is there any way you come back and take your dad's job? Come back to Appleton, Parkersburg, be the next athletic director. And I'll tell you, I listened out of respect to Coach Kearns, but in my mind I was thinking there's zero chance I'm coming back. Smaller school than the Union, less money. We just went to the basketball for the first time in school history. I didn't want to see the bus barn where my dad was killed every day. I didn't want all my dad's friends tell me, oh, your dad would have done this, or your dad. I didn't want him on the football field 3 times a week, like my dad did. But I listened out of respect. Talked to my wife. She said, well, what about your mom? Be there, help those young people come back. And I could hear my dad's voice, never forget where you came from. So sure enough, Mr. Thompson calls. I apply for the job, get the job. I go get my dad's things from Appleton at our middle school. Bring it to this brand new, beautiful building because it was just completed. And when I go in my dad's room, I find this poem taped to the wall. And I know he hung it up because after the tornado, he knew he had to have a positive attitude every day. Poem says this: the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than education, than money, than circumstance, than failures and successes, than what other people think, say, or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, or a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people act in certain ways. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are all in charge of our attitudes. And folks, I'm asking you today, does your attitude make everybody around you better? Or does it hold people back? You tear people down? Does it make them worse? Because it doesn't matter how old you are, how much money you make, what your title is. Only you decide your attitude. And I hope it's one of those that's contagious. That's on page 12. I should have just went another slide. Want you real quick in your book. Write down who's the most positive, impactful people at your school that your attitude, they help you become a better person. Second part, I want you, how can you impact others with your attitude? And then the third one there, who? I want you to write, I want every person in this auditorium to think of one person that they're going to be kind to, that they're going to go out of their way to introduce themselves to, that they're going to invite to sit with them at lunch, or that their attitude they're going to come alongside and mentor or be nice to. Take a minute, write those things real quick in your book. What area in your life do you need to adjust your attitude? Maybe it's about school, maybe it's about your parents, maybe it's about work, maybe it's about your extracurricular activity. time. All right, lean over to a neighbor real quick. Tell them most positive person you know. Tell them real quick. You got 15 seconds. Most positive person you know. All right. Sorry to cut you short with time. Great quote I heard and saw once. Okay, very few ideas are my own. I'm not afraid to admit that. Okay? This one I like. Leaders lift. Leaders lift. Okay? Great leaders add value to people's lives, but to do that, you must be intentional. You want to be a difference maker? You add to others. You do things for others that they can't even repay you. Okay? A simple thing, saying hi, include them at a lunch, do little things. Okay? What great leaders do is they're not afraid of being the smartest person in the room. They don't think every idea has to be their own. I'm the first to tell you, okay, I am not the smartest person at Appleton-Parkersburg High School just because I get to be the principal. I have to hope and rely and empower my teachers. I promise you, I can't go teach physics or chemistry. I can't go teach Algebra 2, college prep, probably even geometry, maybe not even algebra, I don't know. I can't play any instrument, so I can't go do Mr. Mahler's job. If anybody's ever got an email from me, I shouldn't teach any of you English. And I know very little Spanish, even though I took 2 years in high school. But you know who can do those things? The teacher's assigned to do that. And as the leader or the person in the school, what is my job? My job is to come alongside them and say, how can I help? How can I help? How can I make you the absolute best you can be? And then my job is to give them some feedback and come alongside. And if there's things that I can do to improve them, or if there's areas that maybe we got to get better at, I work with them. But folks, to be the leader, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Every idea does not have to be yours. Because great leaders aren't afraid of somebody being smarter than them or having the other idea. Great leaders have the ability to make everybody else around them better. And that's leadership. If you're so worried about yourself and, it's got to be my idea, or it's got to be how I want it, you're missing the boat. You're not going to influence and impact anybody. All you're going to do is turn them off. And that's the difference when we get to leaders. As I said, I never heard my dad say the word I. After that tornado, it was about we. Great leaders, the thing I've learned is, if you're a great leader, you don't have to tell anybody you're great. They all know it. And if you feel you have to tell people how good you are, that means you're insecure in yourself. You don't have to brag about yourself. You don't have to try to point out flaws with your teammates or those other people around you at school. Embrace them. Help them become the best they can be, because leaders lift. Servant leadership. Dad was big on this. And all I can tell you, the definition of servant leadership is this. Who can I help that will never, ever be able to repay me or do anything for me in return? That says a lot about you. If you're willing to do something for somebody else or help them become a better person, that says something about you, knowing you may never, ever get anything back. Okay? Who can you empower? Who can you encourage? And I don't know if you took time, write down 2 people at your school that you're going to be intentional about pouring into. Think about somebody in your class, in your school, on your team, in your organization, and go out of your way to make them a better person. Come alongside them. Coach Miller had that story with the kid in the wheelchair. Did he have to do that? Would Coach Miller have had to make him the manager? Would it have been any difference to the wrestling program with or without him? Big picture. No. Think it mattered to that other kid? Think it mattered to that kid's parents? Think that kid all of a sudden had self-confidence because somebody believed in him and he had value and he had a reason? Folks, that's what you have the opportunity to do for others. Other thing, you choose every day as your time. Young people, don't tell me what matters most to you. Show me. And the way you show me is with your time. Because if I were to go to you and say, what's the most important thing in your life? And you're to tell me your academics. That means I don't have to ask if you study for every test, if you get every assignment done, if you're prepared for class, even if you don't feel great, you still show up every day. Because if academics are the most important thing to you, you're going to do that. Maybe it's extracurricular activities. If it's a sport, that means I don't have to wonder in the summer, did you lift? Did you go to workouts? Did you stay drug and alcohol free? Maybe it's in the fine arts. I don't have to ask Mr. Bieber, hey, did so-and-so, do they show up every time in the morning for a 7 o'clock musical rehearsal? Because if it matters to you that much, you will be here. Because, folks, your time is your most valuable commodity, period. Maybe you say, my family is the most important thing to me. I hope that's up there. Hope it is. But I ask you this, young people, how many of you will sit at your kitchen table without your phone? If you do, thank you from your parents. Those other of you, oh, my parents matter. Next time you have a family meal, do not bring your phone. And actually, when your mom or dad say, hey, how was school or what'd you learn? Good. Nothing. Have a conversation. Have a conversation. They'll be blown away. They'll be so thankful. Then you can probably ask them for like allowance or money and they'll give it to you. But young people, where you spend your time is what you value. Okay? Two types of friends in this world. I think there's givers and there's takers. Which one are you? Are you somebody who makes everybody else around you better and you help and you give and you give? Or are you one of those that everybody else is always the one giving you? Hey, I didn't bring any money. Can you buy me a pop? Hey, can you drive? Hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Can you? Givers and takers. And I'm going to tell you, it's so much better to be a giver. So much better to be a giver. But you got to make that decision. Your world, biggest means of communication. Right here. Snapchat, Instagram. Those are the two big, I think, for your guys' age. There's probably new things I don't even know what they are. When you look at this, I just ask you to use this thing responsible. A couple questions before you ever send, text, post, any type of message. Things I ask you, number one, is this message, post, whatever, is it going to make somebody have a better day or a worse day? If the answer is worse, don't send it, don't post it. Second question to think about, how does this represent my last name? If you go on, our school sucks, I hate my parents, negative, negative, negative. My question is, do you have the right to represent your entire family on your thoughts? Because understand, this is World Wide Web. This isn't going away. Oh, Snapchat, it disappears. Screenshots, all those things, it's not going away. So I just ask you to think, with the messages you speak, do you feel comfortable representing your last name? Or also, do you feel comfortable representing your entire school? Do you get to be the spokesman for the entire school, the entire community, by what you post? Because what can happen is, all of a sudden, one kid from AP says, how bad our school lunch is, or how bad this teacher, Mr. Thomas, the worst basketball coach in the world. Post it. That's what the world thinks. That's coming from every student. On the flip side, our behavior. When you guys go to Cedar Falls and you go into Walmart, how do you act in there? What I tell our kids, if you go over there and you act like an idiot, please do not wear anything that says Appleton Parkersburg at all. Because I don't want them to know you're from here. Not only that, it's not fair to your peers. Not fair to your peers to go be idiots, go into a restaurant, loud, obnoxious, leave things trash. Don't represent your entire school. Don't wear anything that says that. With those shirts you all got, I just ask you, if you're going to be an idiot, please do not wear the Ed Thomas Leadership Academy shirt. If you're going to be disrespectful, please don't have that on. Because you're representing something bigger than yourself. But all those people might know, if you go to one restaurant and you got on your school and you're rude and obnoxious, what does that waiter instantly think about every kid at your school? But that's how they behave. Part of something bigger than yourself. Sometimes we have that choice, sometimes we don't. And young people, I'm going to tell you, adults are no better. Ask your parents about Facebook and what they post, especially your mothers. High school principal, I do not have Facebook for good reason. I can learn everything I do wrong. But young people, it doesn't get better as you get older. It doesn't get better. Young people, you are no different than my generation, the generation before. Kids aren't different. You know what's different nowadays? Parenting. And to these young people in here, I hope you guys do a better job parenting than my generation did. Because at our point, you look at our politics. What a mess. Embarrassment. It's embarrassment for anybody our age. I hope you guys are better. I hope you guys can be civil. And as Mr. Kearns said, agree to disagree in an agreeable way. Doesn't mean you hate each other. It means you got different opinions and ideas of what it should look like. But you can still function. Our world today, for some reason, that can't happen. How much time do I got, Kelly? 6 minutes. Skip that one. This one. As you become an adult, if you want to be extremely successful in our world today, I think these are the things. Number one, show up on time and work hard every day. If you do that, you're going to be different than 80% of your peers. Number one question when I get called on young people who have applied for a job, whether it's locally, Cedar Falls, whatever, they'll call and say, hey, Aaron, tell me about so-and-so. What they want to know, will they show up on time? Can I count on them? They don't ask me your grades, not the first question. What they want to know is, will you show up every day? Will you work hard? Number two, can you stay off your phones when you're supposed to be working? You want to climb the corporate ladder? You want to make all kinds of money? If you just did 1 and 2, you're going to be better than 80% of your peers. Number three, be able to communicate with people in person. Have adult conversations. Use full sentences. Look people in the eye. Shake their hand. Not just a text. You guys don't even text. Not a snap. A conversation. In person. Looking people in the eyes. Using words. Agree to disagree in an agreeable way, as Mr. Kearns said. Be able to have critical conversations that are not personable. You don't agree, you don't get along, it's not personal. How can we come to cope and handle problems and stress? Coach Miller, did he talk about checking it in at the door before he went in the room? Today, he didn't talk on that. Sometimes, folks, home's not going to be perfect. You're going to have outside problems. When you go to work, somehow you got to leave it at the door, leave it in your car. And when you go home, it's going to be there. But you shouldn't be all emotional, up and down all over the place. You got to find ways to cope. And it's a lost art in our world. And I know we go through tough things, different things, but if you can figure that out, you're going to be different. Fourth thing, take pride in your work. Take pride in your work. Would you be willing to put your name on every single thing you do? Whether it's mowing a yard, bussing a table, your schoolwork. Take pride in your work. I don't care. My dad loved to say, no job's too small. Take pride in your work. Because no job's too small. I don't think I have time for this. Yeah, we'll finish with this. Young people, so often I hear kids say, nobody cares what we think. We don't matter. It doesn't matter what we think, say, do. I'm going to tell you it's 100% false. I think you're the most influential people in your entire community. Because tell me one other thing that an adult could organize that could fill a football field, a gymnasium, or an auditorium. I could try to organize something outside of school day, wouldn't happen. You guys, you fill these places. At your schools, to the other schools, you fill these. Why? Because here's the deal. Every adult in your community wants to be proud of you, wants to support you. And it doesn't mean you have to win all the time. It means you have to compete. You have to do your absolute best. You got to do it in a first-class manner. More importantly, every little kid wants to be like you. Just saw a thing about Janesville, and Janesville's guys have been growing their hair long. They said every little kid in Janesville right now has long hair. Why? Because that's what the high school kids do. Folks, the words you use, how you talk to each other, how do you talk to a girlfriend, a boyfriend, okay? How you interact with your peers, how you talk to your parents, that's what the little kids are going to do. What you wear, that's what they want to do. They want to be you. You set the tone, you set the culture. And there's a poem in there, and I know this poem is in that booklet. I can't remember where. Page 14. Little eyes upon you. And I read this at our pep rally for homecoming, but to the others schools and for our kids, I'm reading it again because this is true of our elementary. There are little eyes upon you, and they're watching you day and night. There are little ears that quickly take in every word you say. There are little hands all eager to do anything you do, and a little person who's dreaming of the day they'll be like you. You're the little person's idol, you're the wisest of the wise, and their mind about you no suspicions ever rise. They believe in you devoutly and hold all that you say and do. They will say and do it your way when they grow up to be just like you. There's a wide-eyed little person who believes you're always right, and their eyes are always open and they're watching day and night. You are setting an example every day in all you do for the little person who's waiting to grow up to be just like you. Young people, you have such impact and influence in your schools and in your communities. Don't take it for granted. and understand you represent so much more than yourself. I just want to take a minute here to thank, would all the advisors please stand? If you brought kids, would you please stand? Teachers, any teachers in the room, please stand. Young people, give them a round of applause. They would not have taken time today. Last thing, here's the contest, and I'm going to need some adults to help. I want to know which kid in here took the most notes today. If you think you took a lot of notes and your book is full, I want you to show it adult. I want the two most people with the most notes. This is what we're going to conclude on. I want to see them up front. So if you think you took a lot of notes, start comparing. If you think you're a winner, I want you down here. If you think you got the most notes, come on down this way. We're going to get to their top two. If you got notes, come down front. Not tic-tac-toe notes. All right, Mr. Wheaton, take a look. Pull your books out. Mr. Wheaton, Mr. Waters, Mr. Heron, you three. Figure out who's... If you think you got a lot, start showing your book. I'm going to need another 3 teachers. Can you help me? Over here, we'll get another group going. I need 2 more teacher volunteers. Come up here, help. Show them here. Start to eliminate. For those in your seat, I want you just real quick, turn to your neighbor. Tell them, best things you heard today. What are you going to take with you to hopefully do better? What is it you learned that you had never heard? Teachers, we got to start dismissing some. I only got 2. Top 2. So compare hers now. If you get a good one, compare them to who we think is our leaders. All right, while we're finishing this debate, as we get ready to close, keep working to find me 2 winners, okay? For those of you who came as visitors, I thank you for coming, taking the time. I know some of you are up 6:30 to get here. Appreciate that. On the road by 6:30. For the AP students, I need you to listen quickly. Obviously, it's raining. AP students, we're going to go through. You're going to get your lunch. We're going to have to get creative today because I was hoping we were going to go sit outside to eat. Okay? We're going to have to sit in the gyms, wherever. We're also going to have to make sure we take our time to get through. AP students, we'll meet back in here at 12:45. Nobody's leaving yet. But at 12:45, we will come back in here because some of our outdoor activities today may not be happening by the sounds of the rain. Don't leave. We're going to get to our end. Leaders, I will send you just a questionnaire probably later today or tomorrow. If you could just type back any feedback you got for us, that would be much appreciated. We're getting down here. We got to get to our 2 winners. Who we got? We're down to 3. Okay. You 2 come up here. Our 2 winners. What's your name? Maddie Nemmers from North Polk and? Mackenzie Z. From where?
Charles City.
From Charles City. They're each getting a copy of the Sacred Acre. Round of applause for them. Thank you guys so much for being here. All right, with that, we're going to do AP. Okay, to our guests, we thank you for coming. There is Legend Trail on the golf course is open for lunch. Downtown, we have 3rd Street Grill is also open. For AP students, we're going to have to be semi-orderly. Freshmen, sophomores, I want you just to go wait. Juniors, seniors, you'll be able to go through lunch first. We have pork producers here. Thank you for coming. I hope you had a great day.